Hello and welcome to yet another video. This is the 11th episode of the story, and a chance meeting leads Naruto Uzumaki to learn Genjutsu. Sure, he lacks talent, but once Naruto sets his mind to something, he will never give up until he completes it, and Naruto will not stop until he is a master of Genjutsu. Please like and subscribe to show your support. Now let's begin. Naruto stumbled backwards while walking. The bones of his body were settling into fatigue caused by the worn-out muscles. His face was covered by sweat as the sun set over a cloudy day in late spring. One more, Jiraiya declared. He snuffed out and fell back into his position, with his hand sufficiently close to the ground for hand seals, legs open and slightly bent. Naruto executed a left-handed jab and then shifted his hip before flipping over to kick high, with his right foot rising above his head. Guarding the ball, he placed his foot behind his back and then crossed for the goal with a right angle, landing an impressive curler before firing away. Naruto's kata was simple, but he executed every movement with precision. His focus was solely directed towards his breathing, movement, and the instincts he would develop when surrounded himself with pure concentration. Naruto stepped forward, positioning his feet before thrusting his leg in the air and completely stretching it. He grasped it, embracing the injury in his lower extremities. Release is the term being used to describe this event. He did, and he tumbled down the field with a tired but joyful smile on his face. The distant cicadas sang in sync with the sound of his heart and his unwavering, yet effortless breathing. "That's all I got left to do today," Jiraiya declared. "I'm afraid I won't see you scurrying off to train." Naruto was spotted lying in the woods. Yeah, no. They had reached the land of grass, which was, as its name implied, full of lush grassland and moist jungles with canopies covering the sky. After 6 months of leaving his home, he had hit the ground running. Jiraiya was a master of his craft and had resolved the deficiencies in his physique, helping him to develop his own martial art. He continued his training until he was motionless, and then rehearsed when Jiraiya wasn't interested. Unrelenting activity and diligent practice. His solution: it seemed like he needed to rest on certain days, and as his body recuperated, his thoughts drifted back to an inexhaustible past that was too much to overcome. He couldn't fathom Kurenai's acceptance of the mission. It remained in his mind like a sinister nightmare, and he wondered for how long she had been following orders. Was the meeting under the waterfall purely an attraction for her to impress him with her well-groomed physique? "Naruto," Jiraiya declared. "You're having a change of heart, and it seems like it." He chuckled in spite of the situation. Despite not disclosing what he found that night, Jiraiya was given his space by his master, who only intervened to prevent him from suffering harm and falling into a swirl of dark thoughts. In the initial month after his departure, he had lost touch with almost everything. He could spend the night with Jiraiya practicing his martial art and exploring the countries they visited, but he was restricted to his own thoughts, and fear as dread kept him bound until slumber. Regardless of his whereabouts or actions, it would return, but Jiraiya's constant presence ensured its avoidance. The despair and numbness gradually subsided into whispers that he could control. "We have a great deal of ground to cover," Jiraiya declared, looking up at the sky. His eye had a contemplative look that left Naruto feeling guilty. "Let's get things figured out for the moment." Naruto stood up and reached for his gray shirt, which Kurenai had bought him. He held onto it tightly despite being torn in various places. Despite the distance, it was one of the initial acts of kindness that a stranger had ever performed for him. The memory had deteriorated to the point of being like rotting milk. He believed that heartbreak was an exaggeration, but the combination of anger, sorrow, and betrayal left him with nothing to live for longer than his own mind and heart. He had been told by Jiraiya that the solution to alleviate his pain was not to cause more suffering, but to acknowledge its existence and move forward. The mission was carried out. There was nothing he could do to make it better. Even though I said it, the pain didn't go away. Naruto strolled through the dunes that encircled the village hidden in the sand. Similarly, the midday sun in the land of grass was comparable to a bonfire that burned grass and twigs, while the desert sun there produced an inferno that melted the bones of both humans and birds. It was so arid that he had coughed up air more than once. His feet were buried by the shifting ground, and his sandals were covered in grains of sand. Nevertheless, his attendant wasn't disconcerted, and she was attired in black. "Water is sand," Temari stated. Naruto pressed chakra to his heel and breathed a sigh of relief. Despite having been away from the land of grass for 9 months, he found it enjoyable to encounter someone familiar. Despite not having met Karen in her native country for the past week, Temari brought back memories of a simpler time when only Chunin had to worry about becoming an adult. He had planned to obtain some jutsu scrolls for practice, but Temari had offered to teach him the ropes. He was uncertain about what she would gain from it, but seeking the aid of a specialist saved him from being alone. Temari stated that they had reached the top of a particularly large dune and were now here. A wide expanse of flat desert was dotted with rocks and boulders of all shapes and sizes, many of which had been cut into grooves and indents by hand. With his taijutsu in order, it was about time he learned how to master wind chakra. In Jiraiya, there is no better place to learn it than in the land of wind. This wasn't the first thing that came to mind for him when he thought of wind chakra, though. Naruto inquired, "Will we cut through the rocks?" Temari nodded as she spoke. "We can do without the waterfalls like a leaf ninja." Without warning, Temari slipped and tumbled down the dune, coming to a stop beside the rock formation. Naruto's running style was noticeably lacking, as he didn't want to give it up. She hurled a small stone at him. "Attempt to sever this link." He seized the stone and focused his chakra, picturing wind whipping through it to shatter it in half. The stone was split into 2, but the latter part was cleft. He could cut the leaf as if it were his own, but there was a distinct contrast between elm and rock. Temari stated that brute force was only effective in a limited number of cases. Naruto's face became a smooth mask, and he almost frowned. He had a tendency to keep his emotions hidden. "Is it not within your power to transform the chakra into what you need it to be?" Temari questioned, shaking her head in frustration. "Wind doesn't behave like water, despite its similarities to water." She proceeded towards one of the biggest rocks. "Mastering the wind chakra requires a basic understanding of the air we breathe. It screams and tears and pulls everything in its path, but it can be controlled. I'll demonstrate how." She turned her back and whipped out her fan with a flourish. Naruto's sensor enabled him to perceive the world around him while he closed his eyes. He had a visual field that stretched to 200 meters in all directions, and he could read the information with greater clarity and more detail. After spinning her fan twice, Temari gathered wind chakra at its base and then proceeded to chop up the boulder in front of her. Her fan was not nearly the same length as the boulder, yet she utilized her chakra as a guide to channel the wind along the path she chose. On the spot, she spun and in a moment's notice, her fan was secured to her back pocket. The boulder fell in front of her and was severed into 2 equal pieces. She had a smile on her face, feeling happy. It was a very impressive feat, but he wasn't ready to exhibit his admiration. The wind is a force that comes from your chakras, not your brain. The wind chakra is a volatile and uncertain entity, but by comprehending its subtle manifestations, you can manipulate it as desired. Temari breathed deeply. He observed her accumulating wind chakra near her nose, which allowed her to breathe in more air than usual. Exhaling from her black kimono, she let out faint waves of wind chakra. That's why she didn't perspire in the heat during this period. Naruto said, "Isn't it similar to Genjutsu?" It is a fact that it is not true. Temari's expression was a murmur. You'd be aware of that, wouldn't you? He was a proficient at it, but he had always intended to broaden his expertise. His connection with Kurenai would always tie into his understanding of Genjutsu, but for him to lose it would be foolish. He had always aspired to become the most powerful ninja in the Hidden Leaf and achieve fame through mastery of Genjutsu, even before Kurenai began teaching him. He would simply shift and adapt, eliminating the need to use it as his sole attack mechanism. If someone from the Akatsuki could circumvent his Genjutsu, he would be an invincible figure. It doesn't mean that it's all I have to do. Like she did when they first met in that forest, Temari stared at him. He was unaware of what she desired, but it was her fate, not his. Your chakra should be molded, she suggested. It's time to unveil your true nature. Naruto drew his closest knife and reminded himself of Temari's demonstration. By concentrating on his chakra, he liberated it and guided it out, splitting it into 2 equal parts. He was given a nod by Temari. Excellent job, done well. Let's move on to the next one. He proceeded to walk onto a rock that reached his knees and repeated the motion. A pair of sharp legs. It was evident that he had made progress, but there was still room for improvement. Despite the passage of time, Naruto persisted in making clones to speed up the process. He worked until the end his chakra became red and the sun hung in the sky. He eliminated 6 clones and the experience left him with sore muscles from his brain to his toes. He landed and put in place the cross seal. Temari stated, "That's all said and done," before he could say it. "You're done for the moment." Naruto's blinking motion was a slow and steady process. "It's not a question of course. I am capable of carrying on with my activities." She looked at him with a grimace. "You're not in this state, it's just like that. You're going to be a complete loser." Naruto asked, "Do you care?" while his head was shivered with a migraine. He wouldn't let anything impede his ability to become stronger. "If you're interested in training until death, do it on your own time. Provided that I teach you, the message is accurate and you are not fit to train." He scowled, his face redone with emotion. He had been told he was training too hard, but Jiraiya showed his concern for him and retreated. Despite being busy with her training, why did Temari feel any compassion towards him? He experienced tingling in his palms and felt some spasms. He gathered his chakra and let out a loud cry as he suffered. The temperature was high everywhere. It didn't take long for him to realize that he was drinking from a canteen after Temari helped cool him down. There was no evidence that he had made a dent in the boulder. Temari questioned, "Are you ready to go?" The heat was the reason, but she came close to looking like a complete loser. Devoted to addressing gender issues. What is known about him? He was left with no option. The temperature dropped rapidly as the sun set, causing the village to turn black when they returned, with only scattered lanterns and moonlight remaining. After arriving at his hotel room, Temari stated that they would return to their previous plans from tomorrow. "Good night, friends." After nodding and pushing, Naruto hit his bed with a thud and fell back into dream mode. At the break of dawn, Naruto heard a bang at the door. He stood up and wiped away the flakes from his eyes. With a smile on her face, Temari said, "Good morning, I'm feeling up." "How did she work? Are you doing well?" Naruto's head bobbed back and forth. The migraine had dissipated and his chakra reserves had fully re-established. It had been a while since he last felt this well-rested. Temari demonstrated her hand-clasping abilities by demonstrating an applause. "Afterwards, put on your appropriate attire. Within 5 minutes, I'll be in the lobby and meet you there." Naruto didn't undergo a coma training session on that day. The hidden sand provided a pleasant and cool climate during winter nights. It would sometimes get very cold at night, but with proper clothing it was manageable. Additionally, he refrained from participating in training until the following day. Naruto ceased breathing and saw no more than what was left of his body. Despite being familiar with the lack of moisture, he still found pleasure in observing his frigid breath. It's improbable that he would never be accustomed to seeing all the stars in the night sky. The desert was a beacon of light, and the full moon's luminosity shone through them. He used to sit on the hotel's rooftop before going to bed and looking at the sky. It helped him relax and calm his nerves before he drifted off to sleep. As time passed, Kurenai's heart was healed by betrayal, causing him to sleep easier. Jiraiya was missed by him. Although Jiraiya only stayed for a week after their breakup, it's not the first time that they've ended things this way. He couldn't have found the informant he was after easily. He was aware that he hadn't been abandoned since they communicated through toads. The sand came together beside him and burst out. With arms crossed in front of his red coat, the newcomer stood beside him. Naruto said, "Hey, Gaara." Gaara lowered his gaze. Despite his lack of smile, he had the ability to read the emotions of other Jinchuriki, and Gaara was always happy when they were together. They observed the twinkling of stars for a brief moment. "What's your training like?" Gaara inquired. Naruto's expression caught on camera, and he smiled. "I'm advancing, but I still have some work to do." Over the past month, he had spent much of his time with Temari. Despite his belief that she was cruel and harsh, she taught him with patience and showed appreciation when he did well. The challenge of waking up at sunrise to do morning training was initially challenging, but he eventually became comfortable with it. The opportunity to watch the sun rise over the village and light up the sky in shades of orange, red, yellow, and blue was also given to him as a long-held desire. Temari's mantra of "early to rest, early to rise" was always present. Her self-worth and commitment to her well-being were a result of her high standards, which were evident in her ability to maintain herself. He had grown accustomed to her presence in recent times, which helped him disconnect from his thoughts and fears. Naruto asked, "What are you up to these days?" The previous time he inquired, Gaara had been strengthening the border wall in the village. Prior to that, he was employed in the administration, and it was quite an experience to witness Gaara's multiple sand eyes scanning through paperwork. "I am being trained to be the next Kazekage," Gaara declared. Naruto's eyes widened wide in amazement. "I wonder if you can guess what she was thinking." Gaara has changed so much since their last meeting, but he always assumed a Kage should be older before they were chosen. He never expected to move so quickly. "Despite my lack of experience, I believe it is the most effective way to demonstrate to my village that I have made a significant change. To achieve the Kazekage rank, I must undergo training beforehand to ensure that I am adequately prepared for all my responsibilities." Naruto's expression was one of a frown. "Is it acceptable for you to be Kazekage?" "Both my brother and sister are willing to train me to become a Kazekage. Upon completion of my training, the council will be informed that I am ready to lead the village." There was another discrepancy between the leaf and the sandia. The Hokage was characterized by the presence of advisors, such as elders who frequently accompanied Sarutobi, but never a council. If the leaf had a council responsible for the Hokage's actions, it could be different. It's possible that it would have a much worse impact on him. "Is it acceptable to serve those who loathe you?" Gaara asked, raising his arms and walking towards the balcony. The clay and earthen domes were illuminated with warm orange glow by the majority of the city's lanterns, which had turned on at night. "I have always been aware of their suffering and fear. Rather than taking them under my wing, I want to be their Kazekage and demonstrate that I can contribute to their betterment." Naruto's jaw caught a thump. He aimed to become a Hokage to win over the people who had distanced himself from him, and he established friendships and shields to protect his identity. If Hokage was only a weapon or flight risk that could be controlled with puppetry, what was the purpose of his role as compared to other characters? It was not a good idea. You and Yujito Ni were able to demonstrate that you were alive despite the hatred of others, and they gained respect and friendship from those in your vicinity. It motivated me to re-evaluate my personal connections and alter them, ultimately leading to the fulfillment of life's desires. He was overcome with tears as he remembered the loneliness, neglect, rejection, warmth, friendship, acidity in Sarutobi's smile, and love from Kurenai. What happiness! Naruto exclaimed, his teeth being exposed. You've never been betrayed, would you speak up if the person you loved had done it to you? Gaara asked. Naruto was quickly drawn to the blood-splattered kanji on his forehead for love. Yes, of course. Gaara's unwavering confidence left Naruto in a state of disbelief. The sadness in his eyes was palpable. In exchange for hers, my mother brought me into existence. My uncle manipulated me by making everyone around him feel safe, but it was only a way to make me less anxious and seek revenge on my mother who had passed away. My father, who was the one who issued the sealing order, sent assassins after me to assess my abilities. I couldn't endure the pain for a long time, so I shielded myself to avoid it. Despite my efforts to bring about change through blood and violence, I was unable to fill the hole in my heart. Naruto ingested the lump in his throat. Tears streamed down the edge of his eyes. Despite not knowing the rationale behind my father and uncle's torture, I have been unable to erase the dark side of my past. I am no longer a weapon to be used and abandoned. I will be Kazekage, and I am going to become someone who deserves love and empathy. Gaara's expression was one of a deep, sorrowful embrace, filled with both his hopes and dreams, as well as his pain. My friend, you have demonstrated to me that this life, despite its imperfections, is truly worth living. Thank you for everything. The floodgates drew the waters, and Naruto's eyes closed with a stream of weeping. Why do you want to assist me? Naruto was positioned in the desert, wearing a loose-fitting white and orange shawl that provided him with protection from the elements. The hidden sand bestowed it upon him, and it had provided a much-needed boost. His old orange tracksuit and gray clothes were ruined beyond repair. He placed his hands on the desert floor and let the wind chakra congregate in his fingers, imagining the form he desired. He exhaled his breath and proceeded to push it aside, guiding it all the way until it reached the village wall. He stood up, observing the twin waterfalls pouring out waves of sand, and smiled. If he could cut through the desert, anything would be within reach. Temari remarked that it was an excellent outcome. Standing by one of the new waterfalls, she looked into the abyss. The sun shone through her face when she looked up at him. I was confident in your ability to do it. After 6 weeks of hard work, he had finally found his footing and conquered his challenge. Temari's guidance prompted him to examine wind chakra from a completely different angle, and it was only later that he began to appreciate the full potential of the howling wind. He could have finished his training much quicker, but there was no need to push himself too hard, which allowed him to take a break and reflect on his day. Naruto expressed gratitude by removing his hands and saying, "Thank you." Temari's eyes were a sparkling display of light. I have earned the honor of being the one to express my thanks to you. You rescued my brother and brought him back to us. Naruto was able to observe her approach for the first time as she approached him. She noticed that her kimono showed all of her long, toned leg muscles, her headband covered her forehead, and her smooth neck too. Gaara was not the only one who aided me, he stated, in an effort to divert himself from his duties. I acknowledge that. You are currently present at this location. Naruto observed Temari's teal eyes with deep concentration. Temari contacted him and asked, "Why do you help me?" His head was in the air as far as her mouth, but he wouldn't be very short for long. He had started to grow taller and hoped to achieve his height again. You're hitting me, she muttered, reaching for her hands on the hips. You slashed me with ease, and you did it while protecting the dignity of someone you had little contact with. The thought of a punk kid doing that to me really offended me. It's so irritating when Shikamaru mentions you that I can't stand it. Naruto's eyes flicked as he gazed. Shikamaru is my friend, and whenever he mentions me, I'm left wanting to know more. It was important for me to recognize your true self, and teaching you provided me with the opportunity to explore this possibility. He let out a deep breath that barely indicated what he had been holding. It's unexpected that a foreign ninja would be so open-minded. I hope you found what you were seeking. Temari's expression was one of warmth and realness, as he smiled. I was correct. Despite his pride, he frowned and nodded in agreement. Although Gaara and Yujito were Jinchuriki like him, Karen was not. Temari showed respect and honesty, but they both did. Naruto conveyed his appreciation by saying, "Glad I can assist you," as it didn't hurt to show gratitude if one could. Naruto walked through the village for the rest of the day, greeting some of his neighbors who were familiar with him. At first, it was interesting to see him as a tourist, but once he became an integral part of the community, relegation was given to him like anyone else in their village. It was almost impossible for him to comprehend the privacy that came with it. The Hidden Sand's lack of a ramen bar was reassuring to him, but he nonetheless enjoyed their local specialties. Despite not being stiffed or condensed, he had been shown some of Temari's preferred places to stay during their non-training period, and she had even entertained him with her favorite sights. When Naruto stepped onto the rooftop of his hotel, Jiraiya was leaning on the balcony. At what point did you uncover the identity of that informant? Naruto inquired. Jiraiya had labeled the informant as highly problematic, and during his extended search for someone, they discovered Tsunade and brought her back to their home. I was correct. What was your experience with the Hidden Sand? The territory was a hyperbolic nation, where the days were unchanging and the nights were unpredictable. The Sand residents had no money to lose by taking unnecessary advantage of water, importing essential food, and neglecting some of the creature comforts they had taken for granted during their time in the Leaf. Despite this, they were also thankful for what they had, and the majority of the locals quickly adjusted to a constantly changing environment. This facilitated their resilience, independence, and dependability, enabling them to endure. There was more to his knowledge than just wind navigation. Jiraiya and Naruto exchanged eye contact as a result. I'll prioritize my own needs over those of others, Senegade. A smile arose on the master's face. It's a good thing to hear. He approached him and placed his heavy hand on his shoulder. If you're prepared, we can depart tomorrow. It's my opinion that you're ready to take pleasure in all the craziness of this excursion. Naruto's expression was a smile. You're correct, my friend. I'm prepared to depart. Before going to sleep, they observed the moon and stars gleaming from above as the sun set over the village. The next day, they arrived at the entrance and were greeted by Gaara, Temari, and Kankura, much to Naruto's surprise. Despite not having met the puppeteer himself during his stay, he was taken aback by being with his siblings, as despite being Gaara's older sibling, Jiraiya expressed gratitude towards those who took care of his apprentice by saying, I am grateful for your continued support. Gaara nodded in agreement. We are pleased with this and say it's our pleasure. Naruto will always be a welcome visitor in the Hidden Sands. Naruto's lips grew hot, and he gazed at his lips with a smile. I'm honored of receiving this gratification. Kankura had a smile on his face. Gaara has been the recipient of many kind gestures, but it's the least we can do for her. Naruto expressed his pleasure by saying, it's appreciated. They shook hands. Temari stated that it was crucial to remember what she taught. Do not engage in any verbal or non-verbal activity. Temari, for your teachings. I have gained a great deal of knowledge and experience. I had a great deal of fun teaching you, and it was proving to be effective. She closed the door and gave him a strong embrace. He embraced her for a brief moment. It was warm and friendly, unlike Kurenai's handling of him. He had to feel it. She whispered, you are stronger than you think. Remember to recall that fact for another chance. His blue eyes flickered with the slightest spark when she let go. You've got it in your hands, she said. Until they met face to face, Gaara proceeded to walk up to him. Goodbye, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto shook his hand as he held it out. Gaara, make sure to stay safe. You're poised to become a remarkable Kazekage. Gaara's face lit up as she smiled. I am grateful for your help, which is why I say thank you. I'm happy that our friendship is not a source of animosity. Naruto's expression was one of pure happiness, as he smiled. Me, too. The surreal reality of Gaara's transformation into a brother and sister was worth celebrating, especially since she no longer harbors remorse. Gaara was aware of his situation and had the courage to move forward. It was time for him to move on, too. Naruto was motivated by the power of his growth as it provided him with a goal to achieve that could erase all memories. Although it produced positive results, it had been exhausting for him mentally and emotionally, causing him to feel scared of the possibility of experiencing depression or blackouts. Despite his efforts to escape harm, he had only inflicted pain upon himself and had drifted in on Kurenai's actions, not even remotely close to finding the comfort hoped for after leaving the Hidden Leaf. He had to deal with some difficult questions as a result of this realization. What was the reason behind his desire to strengthen himself and defeat Akatsuki for his survival? In the event of defeating them, what steps would he take? He took some time to figure out, but eventually succeeded. His survival depended on his ability to fully embrace life, and anything could make him feel trapped, especially himself. Kurenai remained an extremely challenging terrain. The realization of the truth had a profound impact on him and transformed him, ultimately. He was hesitant to forgive her, but he wouldn't allow her to keep him stuck in the past, even though it resulted in significant emotional damage. Upon the chance, he would confront Kurenai and Sarutobi about the mission to gain clarity on the situation and put an end to his lifelong struggle. Gradually, he began to recover. Naruto had traversed the majority of the elemental nations during his training, and it was time for him to make the most of his trip. In the land of tea, he indulged in some of the finest tea on the planet, watched as flamingos, birds and other colorful creatures visited the birds' land, rowed a boat through the murky waters of Waterland, took baths in hot springs near the Ozarks. He constantly encountered new people, explored unfamiliar foods and cultures, and created lasting memories. Naruto's training involved pushing himself, but he was careful not to exceed the boundaries. His time in the hidden sand had provided him with a sense of perspective and demonstrated his ability to heal. He spent the next year developing his own fighting style, incorporating all the knowledge he had gained from his teachers, after having a mostly clear mind. By dedicating himself to improving his physique and body mechanics, Jiraiya was able to achieve his best results. His chakra reserves had reached incredible levels and his ability to control them was heightened, as he never wasted any chakra on his jutsu and the balance between physical and spiritual energy was flawless. He had developed a strong affinity for Genjutsu and his proficiency in wind chakra had enabled him to experiment with more tricks and perform illusions. There was one thing he wanted to work on, but it would require some help to bring his illusions to life, and it'll be a challenging task. He began studying water chakra as his secondary chakra and was willing to do it without hesitation. Kurenai had taught him how to handle the element, but it was a simpler task than it seemed. Each time he encountered something against a wall, I had the ability to summon several toads, including both big and small, as well as individuals from different age groups. Consequently, he developed several collaborative jutsu and acquired a few water-style jibes from the toads. He didn't just tackle the obstacle of mastering the water chakra, but also developed a skill set that he could blend and integrate. He challenged his master to a no-holds-barred spar and promptly gave him his ass after 3 months. He used the bruises on his chin caused by his loss as motivation to improve his condition. A multitude of mountains in the land of lightning were inhabited by him, where thunder sounded and lightning flashed across the sky. Jiraiya stated that he would say, "Whenever you're ready." A brawl of fists and steel was the outcome. Naruto faced fire and water, with the wind obstructing him as he looked for an opening to cast a genjutsu. Despite being suffocating, Jiraiya's technique was still powerful and unyielding when dealing with the constant pressure of genjutsu masters. Naruto eventually had the chance to unite and divide into 2 characters. The Rasengan was fully formed in the right hand of the person who launched him, while the other had no reaction. Jiraiya punished him by kicking him with an axe, but the clone sprang into flames and the wind picked up, turning the smoke into a tornado that consumed lightning. With his hands clapping, Jiraiya took a deep breath and helped put an end to the tornado. In a matter of seconds, Naruto was in his element and collided his foot into his ribs, causing him to fall to the ground. Precious, Naruto kept his distance from the attack, waiting for a counteroffensive. But it didn't come to fruition. Jiraiya stooped up and moved in comfort, wincing back as he touched his stomach. You exert a lot of pressure by pushing yourself to the limit. It's possible that I should stop putting myself through the motions. With a smile on his face, Naruto looked into Jiraiya's eyes and said, "Are you all ready?" He maintained his gaze for the longest period possible. They proceeded to chuckle. The pride on his master's face was evident, as was his warm smile. Good job, kid. After winning, Naruto expressed his gratitude by saying, "Thanks, sensei," with a smile on his face. Jiraiya said, "Let's go back to the hotel and eat what I just said." Together, they descended the mountain and walked back to the hotel. The town they were passing through was situated in the vicinity of the boundary between the land of lightning and the land of snow. Even though he had been a warm welcome in the hidden sand, if the Hokage ever wanted to marry him there would be no reason for him to have that privilege elsewhere. Nevertheless, he was exposed to the beauty of this land, and the settlement was peaceful and tranquil. Jiraiya noticed women lounging on the lobby's couches as they arrived at the hotel. Jiraiya's wave and wink made them both giggle. Naruto said, "Come on in, pervy sage," by placing his hand on his master's shoulder. "They'll be present here tomorrow." Naruto intervened when Jiraiya snorted and directed him to the hotel's restaurant. The pervy sage was determined to make the 5-item-all ramen, and they cooked an excellent one with salt. After sitting at a corner table with surprise, Jiraiya asked, "Who's up for grabs, Naruto? I've witnessed the adoration some of these young ladies are giving you, and as your sole guardian, I am tasked with demonstrating to you that you possess all those qualities." He had grown up and was able to move on from his heartbreak while training, which made women notice him. They were also noticeable to him when he was a teenager, after all. He had no inclination towards playing games. It's possible that it will happen at a different time. Jiraiya's gasps were met with a cunning smile, which quickly spread throughout his face. She said, "Oh, I get it. Are you still pondering over the hours you spent with Temari in secret? If I had an agent to guide me, I would have made it a long-lasting relationship." Jiraiya's small statement made him shiver in anticipation, but his words were too much for him to fathom. Temari served as his companion, mentor, and friend. Her company was genuine and she truly cared for him. Despite her physical appeal, there was no significant spark in his feelings when he fell for Kurenai. At the moment, he was not prepared to go into a new relationship. Naruto inquired of Grandma Tsunade, "Who is this girl?" With a heavy heart, Jiraiya asked, "How many times have you been turned down?" "Oh, good call, Naruto. That's a small blow. It's possible that I should inform Tsunade about the names you've been using on her." Naruto's innocent smile was evident. I had already uttered that phrase in her mind before she could understand. He squirmed with emotion. "I was in a hospital bed, but I didn't realize it when I got there." "I'm pleased to hear it." During these times, he was deeply thankful for Jiraiya's presence in his life. Despite being stuck in his own head for almost 2.5 years, Jiraiya supported him and helped him develop new skills. Jiraiya narrated stories from his past to him, providing more insight into the fourth Hokage, the children he mentored in the Hidden Rain, and his aspirations for authentic love. He was given guidance on how to handle women in bed and out, and Naruto admitted that he had no regard for his master, although expressing this would be difficult for him. Jiraiya, the legendary Sannin, Toad Sage, and one of the most powerful individuals to walk the elemental nations, was almost as close to a father as possible, considering his true nature. Naruto asked, "Are you of the opinion that I am capable?" Jiraiya stared at him with an atypical serious look. The experience brought back memories of their initial encounter, during which he had been judged by a person who had witnessed it all. This time, he wasn't a man in need of strength, but rather an ambitious Chunin who was on the brink of becoming one. Jiraiya said, "Yes. I don't have much else to teach you. What's the rest? The first step is to finish your ramen before you start eating it." Naruto observed Jiraiya securing their suite with soundproof barriers while moving at an impressive pace. The room in the suite had 2 beds, a coffee table with 2 couches on either side, an enclosed walk-in closet and bathroom. The atmosphere was well maintained, and if not for the tension in the air, it would be quite comforting. He had gained some knowledge about sealing from Jiraiya, including the distinctions between seals and jutsu formulas, the techniques for detecting and eliminating obstacles, and how to construct superior sealing scrolls. Nevertheless, he didn't acquire any new skills that could be applied to his combat abilities. He couldn't afford to spend too much time learning how to use contact seals, which were quite difficult to handle. However, Jiraiya was able to set up a barrier that was quite robust, and upon coming across the surrounding area, he believed their conversations would not be monitored. On the couch, Jiraiya sat with Naruto and gestured him to sit on the bed. After Naruto finished sitting, Jiraiya kneeled down with his hands on his back. "I wasn't particularly close to your mother, but she was just as you were. Her spirit was infectious, her determination unwavering, and she never let go of her ambition. Most importantly, she cherished your dad with all her might, and I am aware that she loved you too." Naruto posed the question, "What was that girl's name?" "Kushina Uzumaki is the name given to her." With a beaming smile, Naruto's countenance was unmistakable. He was aware that Kushina was his mother's son, but the fact that she was also his daughter and a hero was so impressive. He quickly became emotional and sobbed. "Who is my father?" The words of his master left Naruto feeling frozen in thought. He owes his father an honor, a once-in-a-lifetime ninja who was known for being fearless and captivating to those around him. According to Jiraiya, Minato Namikaze was a very good man. There was a sense of unpredictability as everything began to unfold. Nevertheless, there was one significant difficulty that caught your attention immediately. My father, who was also known as the fourth Hokage, sealed the 9 tails within me. Why did he think I could handle its force? Naruto, he was eagerly anticipating the prospect of becoming your father and feeling loved. He would never attempt to hurt you. Naruto's scowl was no longer noticeable. Apart from sealing the 9 tails, he was not aware of what would happen to him. If only his parents had been alive, his life would have been better. If his father were the Yellow Flash, there would be no hatred towards him and he would have received love from his mother. Iruka wasn't his first friend. It wouldn't be necessary for Kurenai to become his Genjutsu mentor. Before he became a genin, Kakashi would have been present in his life. Despite being the container for the 9 tails, he would have been completely different if his parents were still alive. However, he was present here. Naruto surveyed his tenant's alertness by looking inward, but the 9 tails' sole response was its revolting expression. He shook his head in an instant. Despite its infuriating reputation, the problem wasn't with the 9 tails. In any case, not entirely. The only thing missing was everything else that came with it. There were many questions that he wanted answered, but Jiraiya wasn't the person who enforced the laws in the Hidden Leaf or made him hate by the villagers. It was pointless to express his anger towards his boss when the ultimate goal was not within reach. Naruto expressed gratitude to his father for revealing information about his parents, saying, "Thanks, Sengo." Jiraiya's eyebrow widened and relaxed. "It's a relief that I have the opportunity to do this. Your father is not only your master, but also your godfather." As the situation worsened, Naruto lowered his fist and watched as more things fell into place. "Where were you?" His godfather's expression was grimacing. It's not necessary for me to be in charge of a spy network if I remain in the leaf. Naruto let out a growl while breathing. Why did you choose not to bring me along? I had a job that wasn't suitable for infants, but I couldn't take you in no matter what your age. From a young age, you were an essential member of the village. As the Jinchuriki, if you were not at home, it would be an ideal time for the birds to gather and feast on their prey. Naruto smirked. That's not the reason why I never crossed paths with you. Upon my initial visit, Sarutobi-sensei assured me that he was looking after you, and I had no reason to doubt his judgment. Jiraiya was not the cause of his actions, despite having multiple reasons. The intensity of his scowl intensified. You didn't even bother to check on me? I needed you. He should not have said that, regardless of how accurate it was. Jiraiya's facial degeneration caused him to appear so elderly that he regretted his age in a matter of years. The loss of your parents has left a lasting impact on me as I look back at them and reflect on the loss. It took me a considerable amount of time to move on from the past. He massaged his face. There's no justification for it. Now that I've lost time, all I can do is make a comeback. Naruto stated that, you already have it, as he said. The crackling smile of Jiraiya brought back Naruto's grin from the brink of defeat. His own godfather's lack of aid during his childhood was a source of pain for him, but he is now here with us. He had to move forward instead of staying in the past. Jiraiya had demonstrated his debating abilities and earned his trust. Naruto, I thank you very much, said Jiraiya. With a scroll in his pocket, he took out one photo and presented it to him. Your parents are the ones you see here. Naruto's eyes were open to the resemblance, which would have made him recognize his father. The pair had the same spiky yellow hair, bright blue eyes, and warm smile, but when he met his mother, his breath became caught in knots. She had long flowing red hair and bright violet eyes. Like his, her chin was round. She sported a genuine smile, as if she had the freedom of her own mind. The person in question was his mother. In essence, it was her fault. He smeared his tears. Is it possible for me to retain possession of this? Jiraiya replied with a firm answer. It's in your hands. Naruto examined every curve and detail in the photo, and if time had not passed, he would have been content. He stoically examined the photo and smiled. I have a clear understanding of them, pervy sage, Naruto said. He shared a laugh with me. Jiraiya's countenance was unwavering, and he had a kind-hearted smile. I'm aware that they would be impressed with you. Your bravery and determination have enabled you to overcome any hardship that may arise. Naruto ingested thickly. I am grateful for your help, which is why I say, thank you. They became quiet, but it was a peaceful experience. Naruto felt a sense of warmth and affection towards his parents, who were truly caring. Jiraiya got up from his seat. Let's get some rest. Your partner will be waiting for us here tomorrow, and I've created a mission for you. It's a mission to bring Blade of Illusion back into the game and gain some real-world experience in that area. It was precisely what he needed. He had tested Jiraiya with his clones and spars, but the most effective missions would expand his experience and skills. Naruto expressed his eagerness by stating, I am looking forward to it. Good guy, please. He stopped abruptly in his tracks. Before leaving the leaf, did you fight Kurenai? Naruto's heart raced and his smile shone like ice cream. He became aware of his concentration before his thoughts could take flight, and he disguised himself with a cool face. Yes, of course. The reason you wanted to leave was due to the fight, and he maintained his mask without giving away anything. It's not a question of course. Jiraiya's gaze was piercing. Are you attempting to uncover the person who was watching your activities? His master observed him closely, until discomfort arose and sweat penetrating the back of his neck. In the end, Jiraiya's gaze shifted away from him. While I'm aware that you won't betray the hidden leaf, you're not a newcomer anymore. It's time to stop pretending and become more like them. The Hokage's secrets are kept under wraps for a specific reason. Just having a piece of sensitive information can give you power and influence beyond your imagination. This can change the course of events and bring prosperity to your community. Being told you should not know something can make you a target. I don't have any regrets about my actions. Nevertheless, that was an undeniable truth. Jiraiya smiled at him, reassuring him that it was safe. It was short-lived. It's all about a mistress who is trying to tempt you, which is the truth. If you can't handle her revelations in a responsible way, it's better to leave her there. His blue eyes transformed into ice crystals. I'll exhibit more camaraderie. You shared with me about my parents because you had faith in me. I won't shout my dad's name when he gets hitched. I'm aware that you won't be able to do it. Despite my uncertainty, this information is important for you to be aware of. It's important to be cautious. If your parents' fame is not accompanied by scandal, there are other factors to be aware of. Naruto observed Jiraiya patting his shoulder as he made his way to their room. It will be almost 3 years from now before he can become a ninja by tomorrow. He aimed to develop strength for recognition at that time. He obtained his desired outcome without any assistance, but it had been a deception. He was aware that he could trust someone without being infected. Regardless of his partner, he would make an effort to collaborate with them in fulfilling their mission. It was the way he had been trained. Until his partner demonstrated their worthiness, he refused to reveal his vulnerability and trust. Regardless of the outcome, he would find a way to survive as it was his identity. He would make an effort to live as well as he did last time. Naruto's body was completely clean after a hot shower, leaving her feeling fresh and refreshed. A bright and shiny metal headband was fastened to his forehead. Unzipping his green flak jacket, the orange shirt had a blue spiral on it. Shikamaru presented him with an olive bracelet that was securely secured on his right wrist. His right thigh was fitted with a kunai holster, complete with all the ninja tools required, and his backpack held the scrolls he didn't keep in his flak jacket, as well as some rations. He was on time to do what he wanted. Upon entering the hotel's lobby, Naruto took a deep breath. He was able to easily join Jiraiya and the woman he was conversing with since there were few people around during the early morning. Her cold blue eyes caught his attention immediately. He had only ever seen one person with a gaze as stunning as hers. Naruto Uzumaki is scheduled to meet with us again, as Samui stated. Naruto's head tilted towards his shoulders. It's nice to see you back. In the same vein. Are you familiar with what? Jiraiya inquired. He exuded a smile. Good news. You'll have Samui as your escort. Over the next 6 months, you'll be collaborating with her. He had hoped for someone from his village to come and meet him, but this was a welcome surprise. Naruto inquired if it would take more than 6 months. I had the impression that I should have concentrated on one task at a time. Thank you, Tsunade. She was of the opinion that it would be beneficial to experiment with inter-village teams. The Raikage was prepared to take her offer as a chance. Lord Raikage deemed it fitting for me to act as your companion, the hidden cloud, Samui said. I possess the necessary qualities to complement yours, and this opportunity will serve to strengthen the bond between our communities. Naruto's excitement remained on lock, as he nodded and kept his gaze up. Jiraiya inquired about the commencement of our mission, which started today, he stated. You must adapt to your new partner's behavior as quickly as possible, as the client requested. What is the A-rank protection detail mission? Samui inquired. Jiraiya stated that it would assist in getting back into mission shape. Naruto was given a mission scroll by him, and the author read it in quick succession. We're going to the land of snow, right? Naruto inquired. Far to the north, there was an isolated country. Really, it does sound good to me. Jiraiya expressed a smile. I'll leave you to it. Samui, it was a great pleasure to have crossed paths with you. Alright, Samui declared. Lord Jiraiya, I promise to take care of Naruto for you as my savior. Jiraiya was able to keep the lecherous leer from ruining his smile. It's a stroke of luck that I can say. Naruto, this is yours to keep. Be sure to stay connected with us. The adjustment to life without Jiraiya's constant presence was going to be tough, but he was a ninja and they wouldn't be separated for long. Naruto expressed gratitude to the sensei, saying, "Thanks, Sengo. I will do it for you as well." Jiraiya's smile was met with silence from Naruto, who then left him alone with his new lover. She had grown taller since they last met, but now she was the same height as her. Our client is expected to meet in 2 days, Samui stated. Are you prepared? Naruto's mask slipped. I am, well, that's not even close to happening. The morning was spent by Naruto and Samui traveling through the land of lightning. Despite her quiet nature, he was fine with it. He had spent most of his time with Jiraiya in solitary confinement. The opportunity presented itself when he watched her run. It was evident that she had confidence in her ability to move. With minimal noise from her footsteps, she utilized her lengthy legs to make graceful and efficient turns. Her chakra was filled with sudden electrical impulses, and her senses were sharply focused, as she perceived potential hazards or deviations shortly after he did so. In the evening, they arrived at a clearing where his helicopter had set up an enclosure and cleared away debris. Shortly after, they were able to settle in, but Samui only spoke up when the sun went down. What have you learned from your last meeting? She questioned. She had been consuming a protein bar. Naruto consumed some of his instant ramen in a drunken state. Why do you want to ask? We'll be in a relationship, so I'd like to know what you're capable of doing. There was a hint of intrigue in her eyes. Are you willing to take the first step? He asked. I'm confident that you know more about me than I do about yours. As expected, it's a very good sign. My martial art is Genjutsu, and I have expertise in both Tant and Katana. I have a strong grasp of Genjutsu and am proficient in Taijutsu. I am familiar with a diverse range of lightning and fire jutsu techniques. While I am primarily responsible for supporting the troops on the front lines, I can also demonstrate my ability to hold my own in single combat situations. According to Naruto, are you still a Chunin? I was elevated to Chunin in January. Naruto's whining was heard by a small audience. The promotion process was not an easy feat, as it took only 3 years to gain a promotion. I want to extend my utmost congratulations. The sound in her mouth was audible. I'm of the opinion that you possess Genjutsu skills, which I suspect you have. Despite his pride, he maintained a cool demeanor and kept to himself. I'm pretty good at it, she said. My wind chakra proficiency has been recognized, and I'm competent in water jutsu. I am familiar with fire jutsu, but it's not my forte. The summoning jutsu can be utilized by me. I'm under the impression that you have a strong aptitude for long range, Samui stated. Naruto nodded as he spoke. Alright, I'm pretty good at getting close. I tried using swords in practice, but they didn't work with my fighting style. With ease, Samui finished her protein bar by burning the plastic and standing up straight. A scroll she had concealed in her sheath revealed a wooden tant. Explain to me your abilities. His instincts indicated that he had no other option but to consume his instant ramen, leading him to take Samui's tantrum. He rotated it a few times and went through the couple of formations he was introduced to. With a keen interest, she watched him closely and then handed back her weapon to the blade when he finished. That caused her to have a frown. Start with the tant over handle. What was the issue? He wasn't handling metal. Naruto reacted to his anger and followed her instructions. He was aware of his mistake and couldn't fathom why he had to fix such a simple thing. "You have a lot of potential," Samui declared after sealing the wooden blade. "The remaining portions are yet to be revealed." With her legs tied, she leaned towards the tree and closed her eyes. Naruto observed a slight swelling in her chest as she breathed in and out, and recognized that she had finished speaking. "I was pleased to hear that he had actual potential as a Genjutsu fighter." Samui would acknowledge that he was aware of the rest. While Samui was meditating, he would follow her headlight. Jiraiya's ultimate request was to concentrate on that matter. It's a good thing he got an early lead. The following day, Naruto and Samui arrived at the port town that would lead them to the land of snow. To brave the harsh climate, he had to change his clothes. He was told by Samui that she could handle the situation, and he didn't want her to act harshly for his own benefit. Wearing a skirt in the cold weather was not something he would ever do. "Are you in need of lunch?" Naruto inquired. Looking out at the sun during midday, Samui made eye contact. "Yes, of course. The choice of food we consume is entirely up to us." Despite the lack of excitement, Samui was still enjoying her meal. Her preference for quietness meant she wouldn't make things uncomfortable. He did observe her observing some of the intoxicated individuals who were present at the nearby bar with disapproval. The waitress came out after they finished their meal. Naruto observed a small cluster of chakras emerging around her stomach while she was pregnant. Naruto gave a little extra money to the waitress while they were eating, before leaving. He observed people visiting Samui on multiple occasions and couldn't fault them. He had to keep his eyes off her chubby chest. She altered her white flak jacket to function as a makeshift corset, with mesh trimming her cleavage around the waist. It seemed as though she was unconcerned about the attention she received, but her poker face's attempt to hide his feelings made him look embarrassed. A large building with 2 guards at the entrance was where they arrived to meet their client. They watched in awe, as if the attack was on their offspring. Bizarre? After verifying their identities, the guards released them. The internal sounds of explosions, shouting, and wind noise were heard by Naruto, but his sensors showed that they were not related to chakras. In spite of this, he advised Samui to be cautious. They walked past the partition to view a grandiose movie theater, complete with cameras, actors, and dozens of film crew members. It was fascinating to see how a film was being made, but they were determined to make it happen. After conducting a little investigation, they came across an elderly man with full beard, short gray hair, and dressed in shirts that fit him well. He behaved like a soldier. "Are you Sandy Asama?" was the question posed by Samui. With a nod to his surroundings, the man put on his round glasses. "I want you to be the team that I asked out. I am grateful for your help and appreciation." Samui was the first to receive a handshake from him. Naruto's act of touching Sandy oozing hand confirmed his assumption that the victim was a man who had seen battles and endured hardship. They were sent out to ensure the safety of the cast and crew in their quest for the land of snow. Samui paused to find out about their transportation and the reason for their hasty departure. After surveying the scene, he looked around and found himself assessing the set design as well as the costumes and special effects with almost a smile. They were present on the set of a Princess Gale movie and scheduled to accompany Yuki Fujikaze. This was going to be a fun affair. Naruto was reassured by the stillness of the ocean, but their ship's speed meant that they could potentially hit a massive iceberg if they didn't change their course. Along with him, Samui took a look at the iceberg. Her gray shirt was covered with a black jacket and she folded it over the top of her white shirt, swapping her gray skirt for insulated black pants. His flak jacket was paired with a black hoodie that had an orange pattern. They were at least in agreement. "That's where we are going," she stated. Naruto's expression was one of a smile, but it was fleeting. They wouldn't have to be buried in a wet grave. "Excellent. How's Yuki doing?" she asked, in a searing manner. Yuki Fujikaze was a pain in the neck. He had to confront her with a clone before she could escape, instead of offering an uncomplicated introduction. Even so, the disappointment still caused a great deal of pain. Yuki had captured the interest of Naruto since he watched one of her movies on Kurenai's fancy VCR. Although Naruki knew that actors were not identical to their character, it would be better if she was more compassionate or determined like Princess Gale. Her demeanor was characterized by harsh, bitter, disrespectful, and callous attitudes. It was clear that he had the ability to cope with irritating teammates, remaining unfavorable to retain clients. The foundations could have been the same, but the solutions were not consistent. While watching the crew, Samui had made a special decision to watch Yuki. By being able to guard her dressing room from the inside, she achieved greater tranquility than he could. Nevertheless, it appeared as though Samui was within her rights. Despite this, the director was quite eager to capture a moment before it occurred, so Samui took Yuki out on the latest set after Naruto confirmed safety. Despite the cold weather, the crew performed flawlessly as they set up the stage and captured the scene. Yuki's demeanor was reminiscent of someone she met, and her performance as Princess Gale was captivating. Despite the challenges, Naruto persisted, and his diligence paid off when he noticed snow piles on top of the glacier. They triggered something in him, even though he didn't feel it. A sudden surge of motion. Naruto threw an exploding kunai into one of the hills, instructed Samui to grab Yuki, and created shadow clones to protect the crew from 3 individuals. The objective he had set for himself was not achieved. Is it possible to shoot? A pale blue ponytail and smoky green eyes were the features of the front man. The man on the right had stocky, short hair with beady black eyes. With her bright green eyes, the woman on the left was wearing a helmet that revealed twin pink ponytails. With the help of metal on their foreheads and a yin-yang symbol covering some part of their bodies, all 3 individuals were considered ninjas. "Welcome to the land of snow," said the man with blue hair. "Princess Koyuki, I extend my sincerely desired messages of greeting. I'm wondering if you had the hex crystal with me, princess." "Just thinking about it," she smirked at your friend, she said. The alleged princess was being guided by Samui towards the boat. The crew was being ferried by his clones, which allowed him to concentrate entirely on the ninja. Naruto inquired, "What's your occupation?" The man with blue hair snorted, "We are not just hunters, we are ninjas and we will protect this land from anyone who dares to attack it." A female voice burst out, a menacing expression that made Naruto's world go quiet. However, there was no indication of anything on his face. "You've made it to this far north, and you don't even know who you are guarding?" Naruto asked. "You can pass on, y'all," exclaimed the man with purple hair. "Exchange the princess and the hex crystal for me." Naruto's hands were raised up. "I am unable to accomplish that task." The man with blue hair sighed. "You leave us with no other options left. Fubuki, pursue the princess. Mizore causes the destruction of their boat. The blade of illusion will be in my hands." A smirk from Naruto was evident. It appeared that his reputation preceded him. "Nadar, that's accurate," exclaimed his fellow countryman. Naruto immediately attacked hand seals, resulting in the creation of snow-covered vines that were supposed to be intended for his foes. Before the chakra could take hold, it dissipated. Nadar expressed that the technology was truly remarkable. "This is, your chakra deflecting, our genjutsu useless, it will instead, enhance our own chakra." Despite the lack of effectiveness of taijutsu, he divided into 3 groups. The red board and metal gauntlet of Mizore were met with fierce resistance from his clones, who assisted Samui in her battle against Fubuki's ice shuriken with fire and steel. Nadar was suddenly caught off guard, with Rasengan slamming against his chakra attire. The deep purple barrier that emerged nattered through the spiraling sphere, but Naruto persisted and continued to push more chakra into the Rasengan. Nadar's grin started to fade, and he flew away, flashing hand seals of his own. A delightful trick, Nadar remarked. A small crack was visible on his metal shoulder pad. He said, but it won't save you. Ice Tiger chased after him. He had the ability to kill a tiger, even though it was not his specialty. After leaning backwards, Naruto created wind chakra and released twin scythes that stripped its legs. As he tried to prevent the crew from becoming his victims, Mizore hit one of his clones hard and caused them to disperse. Fortunately, Samui had gained the upper hand over Fubuki and removed her dress, which was a strong lightning-like replica that was kept under observation at Yuki's incomprehensible stage. When did it happen? With so many people in the crossfire, it would be a catastrophe if they or others were to escape. He was prone to falling into the ocean and losing Yuki or something else if he wasn't careful. Naruto slammed his palms onto the snow, sending it flying towards the sky, and then threw it all over the iceberg, creating a gloomy blizzard of icy objects that would obscure his movements. As Samui seized Yuki's body, he followed her closely and had the clone act as a fake. They went to the ship together. All of them had made it back safely, and Yuki was pleased to see everyone doing well. The director was in a celebratory state as the crew looked on with slack-jawed expressions, winning the lottery. Samui showed him some respect by looking at him. Despite his inability to take on the snow ninja and their peculiar chakra outfits, it was still possible for him to witness these encounters. He was convinced of it. Nadar's declaration that Yuki was a real princess had left Sandy feeling anxious. He was aware of something, which meant that safeguarding the crew required knowledge of all aspects. The princess had stood and Samui obstructed the way in which to enter the captain's barracks. Naruto said, "Explain, please." Sandy sat down and spoke with his own voice, telling the story to them. Yuki Fujike's offspring was named Koyuki Kazahana, who was the daughter of Sosetsu, the former leader of Snow Valley in Japan. The younger sibling of Sosetsu, murdered him 13 years ago in an attempt to steal his wealth and authority. In a final act of rebellion, Sosetsu had kept his wealth hidden while he took control. After being taken away by a ninja, Koyuki was assumed dead until Sandy discovered her acting career and eventually became her manager. His genuine desire was to bring her back to the land of snow and regain its sovereignty over the land from. It was apparent that Koyuki had been traumatized by the events. Samui claimed that she had collapsed and passed out after he used a jet of fire to counter Fubuki's ice. Despite everything she went through, he fully comprehended the reason for her harsh and reserved demeanor. Sandy kneeled in front of her, asking if they could save her country and bring it back to life. "No," she replied. "The loss of Koyuki Kazahana 13 years ago has left me with no more sorrow for the land of snow." Sandy's cheeks were soaked with tears. "Princess, I implore you to be my savior. Let's see if we can look for reason. It is necessary for you to take the throne instead. The only way to put an end to this nightmare is with this," and Koyuki looked at him like a rat. Is irresistible. "I am not willing to sacrifice my life for yours. I would appreciate it if you could say, thanks." He found himself feeling unwell because of everything that was going on around him. Naruto scowled, wondering what the hell was he expecting. Is it possible to force Koyuki to fight battles because of who her father was, and why she became an actress? You risked killing a country she never wanted to save. Even if you were able to defeat it, there's no reason for her to rule unless she had power. Koyuki's gaze widened as Samui looked at him, and his attention was already subdued. He was reminded of reality by observing the surprise that bounced off her eyes. What was the reason behind their desire for the hex crystal? Samui inquired. The act of swallowing Sandy was carried out by him. The key to Lord Sosetsu's treasure is contained within it. The princess was given it because he believed she would bring about a better future. His father believed that he could harness the nine-tailed fox's strength and bear the weight of its presence. We'll be keeping the princess safe until the movie is finished, Samui stated. She had a very cold look back on her. We'll be compelled to stay in this place until that moment. Naruto stated that the snow ninja would not leave anything behind. He regained his composure and snorted quietly. Like Samui, his eyes ached with cold. Thanks, Sandy, for getting what you wanted. We'll ensure the safety of Princess Koyuki. Sandy shook his head and asked if he had any other knowledge. It's not a question, of course. My apologies for being untruthful. Samui conveyed his appreciation for being honest and expressing his gratitude. Naruto held his tongue. I'll put up my guard and get to be ready for combat, he said. He got up and wiped his unclothed tears with a handkerchief. Princess, if you had the opportunity to save this nation, would do everything in my power. I will protect you, even if it means my life, Koyuki said with a frown, and her manager took the hint, leaving them bewildered. Regardless of any emotional reaction, Naruto didn't need to alienate Sandy any further. The only thing that mattered was that they completed the task. Before dawn, they were on the beach. During the crew's unloading of equipment and preparation of the carriages for transport, Naruto remembered events from the previous day. What was his concern for the challenges faced by foreign nations? Despite being responsible for Koyuki's safety, he couldn't help himself. He insulted a man who loved his country and believed that Koyuki could change their destiny, just because Koshik's situation was so distressing. It was just that they had some common ground, and he hadn't been deceived by a client who was desperate to save his home. Sandy didn't need to be manipulated, but their mission was not compromised. Desperation resulted in hazardous choices, and he would prevent them from happening to him. Koyuki ascended the stairs to be with him at the bow of the ship. Her height was impressive, with long black hair, smooth skin, and deep blue eyes. She was covered in a magenta coat that gave her depth to the look. Samui was present at the captain's table, keeping a close eye on them to ensure some privacy. It was the thought that made him smile, even though he eventually got used to knowing that Princess Gale was a real-life princess. Koyuki inquired, "What motivated you to defend me?" She was undoubtedly not wasting any time. Naruto inquired, "Is it relevant?" "I'm here to fulfill my duty." Naruto maintained a cold and unfeeling gaze towards her, which was part of his disguise to prevent attachment. He is a self-reliant individual who takes great care of himself. He was met with an unexpected intensity emanating from Koyuki, resembling that of Princess Gale. She stated that she was aware of her situation and understood that you cared if they did, otherwise you wouldn't have protected me, she said. He breathed, his breath choking into the air as he exhaled. I've been utilized, too. I was never compelled to do anything. A gentle breeze blew through the ship's hull, while ocean water lapped over it. It's clear to me, Koyuki replied. It's important to maintain your identity, Naruto said, urging people to stay true to themselves. Koyuki grimaced, the heat permeating the cold. Naruto wasn't worried when asked, "What did you say?" "You have a responsibility to your people, but you shouldn't have been forced to come here." She yelled, "Due to duty, don't talk about it. It's not important to do anything if you die." A grimace covered his face. "You're going to run away and let people like Sandy die for you, knowing that your uncle is governing them without any reason." Holding the guardrail, Koyuki turned away. "Naruto, what would be your course of action if you were informed that I had never learned how to govern anything?" "My dad gave me just a crystal and some explanations about mirrors. My profession as an actress is not something I truly despise, but it is what I am privy to." Naruto's eyes were gleaming with delight. "Ask if your uncle was any worse, behave like Princess Gale and her army to vanquish the evil king." She chuckled, her voice so harsh that it cracked me up. "If you could make me a queen and sell falsehoods to innocent people, who would give me my script? Who would help me keep this farce?" he asked. "No, I'm not you, and I can't fathom what you've gone through. It's impossible to isolate yourself from the world and avoid feeling pain. You must face it, in some way or another. It's not your intention to die with remorse. With her lidded eyes, she glared at him as if staring into an abyss that could swallow her whole body. With deep sadness, Naruto sighed and asked, "That's what you did?" It was a difficult journey, but it was well worth doing. Koyuki returned to shore to observe the ocean. With Samui expelled from the sea, he observed his charge and ensured she rested until the crew was finished with their mission, as evidenced by the sun's rising. "You don't act coldly," she stated to him. "In addition, your partner is much more skilled at pretending to be detached than you are." She gave him a smile before saying goodbye. An actress would be able to see through an act. He must have misjudged her, that's for sure. Before the crew set out for their next destination, Naruto took a break to rest. He was accustomed to getting up early and dealing with minimal sleep, even if he did occasionally indulge in deep sleep. The land of snow was reached by them on snow-throwing carriages equipped with windlass engines and snow treads that acted as water jets. He was in the car with Koyuki, visible only through his sensor, and she hadn't left much of their conversation. Naruto expressed his amazement, saying, "This is beyond belief." Samui had her hands in her lap. The other person was positioned at the opposite end of the table, in front of her. "It's my preference to say that. Is it possible to obtain them on the mainland? As far as I'm aware, these vehicles are designed to carry goods or people over long distances. The primary advantage would be gained by civilians, who could provide ninja with farming, commerce, and rare materials with greater independence and ease. The adoption of this approach would result in a decrease in travel time, which would enable individuals to live farther from their country's hidden village or state capitals, something that is already happening." Naruto absorbed his unexpected revelations. "What's the deal with this? The elemental nations are in a state of constant turmoil, and the possibility of war has always been present even when there seems to be peace. The location of supply lines in distant areas during wartime could lead to the targeting of vehicles, which would make it more challenging to provide food or medical aid to civilians affected by the conflict. If our society were to become accustomed to motor vehicles, it would be safe to say that. Is it not possible to use ninja as an aid vehicle?" Naruto inquired. A curt nod was given by Samui. It's likely that ninja would also use vehicles if civilians were willing to do so. If a vehicle of our choosing could outpace an experienced ninja, it would enable us to conserve energy and transport large groups of soldiers, or utilize them for unclassified missions. Nevertheless, this presents its own particular difficulties. From where would you obtain the blueprints or materials needed to build these vehicles? How could you avoid the enemy from creating their own vehicles or obstructing your efforts? Could these cars be modified for combat purposes? You've taken a lot of time to think about this, haven't you? Forewarned is forearmed. The most significant amount of information he had ever heard from Samui in a short time frame was that she spoke passionately about the potential impact of vehicles on the elemental nations. "I can tell you're a good listener, but I don't think your speech is particularly impressive." After nodding again, Samui glanced out the window. It would be difficult for him to adapt to this. Naruto took some time to meditate, and it wasn't until the afternoon when the carriages stopped moving. They had just walked past the mouth of a massive cave. It was once a railroad track, but it had been buried under layers of snow and ice. According to Sandy, there was a hideout located just beyond where the people loyal to Koyuki's father would finally receive their princess. Upon reaching the other side, the director initiated the process of gathering the crew for the next scene, but their star was not present. The crew was unloading their equipment when Koyuki fled. It's not a big deal. To stretch their legs, they exited their carriage. Snowflakes glimmered through the sky, creating a serene and captivating atmosphere. "Samui, how are you feeling?" Naruto inquired. "It's okay," she affirmed. Her chakras were quite potent, and she was alert, ready for combat. The princess has passed on. Don't worry, I'll go find her. He created a lone duplicate. Sustain the crew from harm. Samui nodded in agreement. Her face appeared to be more mellow. After catching up with her, Naruto headed back to the place where she was abandoned, only to discover snow trails that lead into a dense forest. After a brief search, he came across Koyuki, and she was unresponsive. Fortunately, she was still breathing, but her exhaustion made him pick her up in the back and head back to Samui with the camera crew. He should have been angry about Koyuki's escape, but he wasn't. Bizarre? Koyuki didn't stir until they were deeply seated in the tunnel. I'm not telling you, but you are. What is the reason behind your constant search for me? Naruto said with a smile. It's my responsibility to accomplish it, because I believe it should. You're stuck with me, princess, and even if you don't like it, you'll be safest with the crew and my partner. It would be great if you removed me from this location, because I'm the top actress in the land of fire. He chuckled. Isn't possible to do it. Your uncle is aware of your existence and will pursue you to the farthest corners of the earth. Although Koyuki stooped to her limit, there was no need to be dishonest. She succeeded. In hiding. The ninja her manager hired kept her from being a potential assassin, which was the only reason she survived. Considering the fact that actresses have made a lot of money, she could afford to pay them for so many years, but her financial situation would be in jeopardy and their time together would not last. The journey was only a short distance before they arrived, and Samui would provide updates if necessary. Koyuki inquired, "What's the purpose of engaging in combat? Why don't you just give up? Kazahana is the ultimate challenge?" Naruto's eyes lit up with a wide smile. I'm always willing to give up, and I never follow through on my promises. The only time I'll ever die is when I was dead, and I don't want to die anytime soon. Immediately, he felt a surge of memories infiltrating his memory and looked down to see if chakra was running through the railroad tracks. Light radiated from the back and a whining noise was heard rapidly in an instant. Is it a train? Koyuki inquired. Chakra was setting up a black metal machine that stretched to the moon, asking what's happening in this area. If it was a train, he had no intention of getting in its way. Naruto advised him to go away, princess, and he quickly raced through the scene, disregarding Koyuki's negative backseat negativity. The train was too slow for him, but he managed to outrun it and jump out of the way as it charged out from the tunnel. Naruto positioned Koyuki on the snow and let in some deep, vapor-drenched breaths of air, while laughing as adrenaline filled his veins. The train was swift. Eagerly moving. The train was hidden from view, and Samui was keeping an eye on the cast and crew. The interruption came to a halt right in front of them. It's been too long, Koyuki, a man on the train said, his voice echoing across the mountains. Most of his body was covered in a lavender-colored cloak, with his face and shoulder-length brown hair visible without any trace. He gazed at them, his eyes contorted with wrinkles. "Uncle," Koyuki remarked. "I want to see your face," said. "Let your uncle know how much you've progressed, so he can examine it." Naruto defended Koyuki from her gaze as he stood in front of her. The train was hit by a group of logs as they barreled down the mountain. A group of men wielding spears and katana stood on top of ice-covered rocks, while Sandy was placed in the center and dressed in samurai attire. "Our princess has come back to our fold," Sandy announced, with the bravery and power of a true leader. "We shall be accompanied by her, and we shall conquer the land of snow." Sandy's soldiers cheered as he lifted his sword. "Your fate is sealed, Kazahana. Sandy Asama is the one who has assembled a group of 50 devoted warriors to vanquish you." While Naruto was aware of Sandy's conviction, remained unperturbed while they ran down the mountain to apprehend Lord Sosetsu. Nadar stood beside him, ready to strike. They would be slain by them. For no apparent reason. After taking in Koyuki's astonished expression, Naruto turned around and made his decision. Will you not do anything to save those men? Will you give up without doing anything? The wooden walls of the train collapsed, revealing a metal grate guarded by Dot's soldiers. Koyuki's face was filled with fear, concern, and fury as she gazed at him. She asked, "Are you capable of defeating him?" "I believe I can, but the truth is that I won't realize it until I confront him." "Princess, do you have a plan to fight or die unnecessarily?" The steel in Koyuki's eyes was a reminder of determination. "If you win, I'll be there to assist you as well." Naruto's expression was one of smile, with a sharpening of his teeth. "That's the type of thing that appeals to me." 3 clones were seen guarding Koyuki, and the authentic Naruto was shown in front of the charging samurai. The wind pelted the walls of kunai, causing them to be scattered, and Naruto drew blood by slamming his hand onto the snowy ground. Suddenly, he was over 19 meters above the ground, on top of a huge magenta toad. "Game Master, Gamaken, drop your shield." The barrage persisted for nearly half an hour until it ceased, and the entire samurai unit was left unharmed. Naruto's expression was one of pure happiness, as he smiled. "Gammen, great job." "Thanks, Naruto. It is reassuring to know that my lack of stamina did not hinder us from succeeding in our endeavors." The toad was given a clear thumbs up by him. Despite lacking self-confidence, Gamaken was still one of the most powerful toads he could summon. "What would you like me to do?" Gamaken inquired. "Endanger the lives of the people by destroying the bridge and safeguarding civilians. I'll handle the ninja." Gamaken hoisted his Susumata, a massive clubbed object. "I will make every effort to do my best." He reached out and slammed the bridge, striking the ground with a powerful impact. Naruto instructed him to protect Gamaken and keep them safe. He protected the brigade as they retreated back down the mountain, jumping off the giant toad's head as Gamaken leaped to the summit. Naruto summoned another toad by using the bloody fingers of his landing crew. Gamaken was only slightly over a meter tall, while this one was significantly taller. Gamatatsu yelled out, "Naruto!" His yellow skin and blue sleeveless coat were typical of his brother and father. "Would you like to give me some snacks?" Naruto inquired, sporting a smile. "If you lend me a hand, I'll be willing to help. The train is going off the cliff, and I require a lot of water." Gamatatsu nodded and gave Naruto a dopey look. "Agreed, I'll do it." He may have seemed a bit slow, but he was still capable. Naruto's mastery of water-style jutsu was achieved by teaching Gamatatsu the technique. "Keep your tongue down," Dot remarked, voice clear as day. "I am the ruler of the snowy country, and if you dare to attack this train or obstruct me in any way, you will experience the incredible terror of my anger." "Is this individual a legitimate monarch?" Gamatatsu inquired. "He hasn't been found." With a frown on his face, Naruto turns towards Dot. "If you're not attacked, what will occur?" "I am a generous monarch. It is clear that Koyuki must remain in place." Gamatatsu began to experience shivers. He had to insult his friend. Naruto expressed his regret by saying, "I can't do that," in response. Gamatatsu pumped water out of Naruto's mouth as he went through his hand seals. Naruto unleashed his own water jet, causing the vortex to balloon in size and collide with the train like a hurricane. The train was forced off the tracks, but the 3 front cars disengaged before they could join the rest. "You've decided to die, Gon," Dot declared. He possessed a confident demeanor, as if half of his train had not yet fallen off the cliff. Dot was transported by a machine that was carried by an enormous balloon floating above. At that point in time, Mizore launched his metal attack on Koyuki. With her purple wings extending from her underwear, Fubuki charged at the princess. One Naruto clone managed to push Koyuki further than others, while the remaining one removed Mizore from the machine. They went to save Koyuki, but it was a fatal accident, as they were impaled by the ice spears that came from Fubuki's kunai. Naruto acknowledged Gametatsu's assistance, but emphasized the importance of staying out of his way. Gametatsu's eyes widened in amazement. "Naruto, do you have any sweets for me to try next time?" "You've got it in your hands," she said. As Nadar closed the gap between them, Gametatsu returned home with only a small smoke left. After biting Naruto's thumb, which was sometimes a struggle with super-fast healing, the toad appeared in front of Nadar. Naruto uttered the words, "Gamekichi." The orange toad grinded and exclaimed, "Would you like to kick some ass?" Over time, he had grown significantly larger than his brother Gametatsu. "I'm anchored and strapped in place." "Naruto, what's your plan for ice jutsu?" "Your fire is the way to beat it, so I need to use it." Gamekichi's muscles were brimming with energy and vibrancy. "Excellent mental ability. Are you not overly skilled at playing games?" Nadar inquired. "You can't do it by yourself, so bring your best." Nadar then ran around Gamekichi and forced Naruto to confront his taijutsu opponents. It appeared that he wasn't all talkative, but Gamekichi was not, and a spring kick from him caught Nadar in the side and sent him soaring off the cliff headfirst. He was on the verge of creating another clone, but he didn't have to worry about it. Koyuki was confronted by Samui, who took the fight to Fubuki. Having stood up straight, Mizore was fully committed to helping his partner. With all her might, Samui held a firm defense against the two of them, holding back her every move. He was able to concentrate on Nadar without any hindrance as he bounced off the cliff in a mostly unharmed condition. He had no intention of testing his luck against the chakra armor, which was completely intact. Nadar declared, "Let's face the problem," before unleashing a group of snow-clad wolves. At this juncture, they launched an immediate assault on him. Naruto breathed deeply and unleashed a fierce gust of wind, fanning Gamekichi's fiery flames and setting off raging fireballs that consumed Nadar wolves until they burned to ash. As the fire dissipated, Naruto raised his palm to indicate a Rasengan attack, but then held his fist and dropped it into Nadar's stomach. Nadar seized him and struck his stomach with something, but Naruto still managed to beat him up in the eye with a kunai move. Naruto inquired, "Do you think I required ninjutsu or genjutsu to defeat you?" Nadar fell and said, "That's not the case," but Naruto insisted that he had some kind of a smile on his face. The metal seized his sweater, penetrating the skin beneath it. He felt like he had been running for hours, and it seemed like there might be some sleep left. He used his sensor to locate Samui, but electrical shocks strode through his body. Naruto resorted to sharpening his teeth to extract the metal implement, but his tentacles were too deep and unresponsive. The sensor was almost impractical, and if it were used by default, the images produced were too blurry to be useful. He was left completely blind and terrified. Naruto surveyed Samui's well-being to gauge his level of care. Samui had replaced Koyuki's tantrum with her katana. After being punched by Mizore with his gauntlet, she was able to avoid being caught up in the clutches of Fubuki, who used a swinging rope to keep her in place. Samui seized the rope and pulled her into the air after it was cut into ribbons. Despite the situation, Fubuki didn't panic and instead kicked her as Samui lunged at her. It deprived Samui's lungs of the air it had previously made. Mizore threw a smoke bomb before she was about to be pushed into the snow. After the smoke dissipated, Mizore's head was covered in snow and his decapitated body fell to the ground. With a grimace on her face, Fubuki launched an ice kunai that was shape-shifting and shrugged at Samui, but then proceeded to puncture her fallen friend's corpse. After the onslaught, Samui abandoned Mizore and strafed around. Even if she had fallen to earth, the kunoichi from the snow was not hindered and ran after Samui, with kunai swiping down at her blind spot. Samui exchanged corpses with Mizore and pushed them into Fubuki. An explosive reaction, which Samui was able to escape, occurred when pink lightning arced between Fubuki and her deceased partner. She was submerged by a black ice dragon, which caused her to fall off her feet. She didn't stand up. Naruto screamed, "Samui!" Despite his efforts to gather his chakra, the thing on his stomach still wouldn't release him. "Naruto, I'm on your side, don't worry," Gamakichi replied, spraying a stream of water with piercing sharpness and slicing it through the air as if Dot were alive. Before his machine could hit the ground, Dot jumped off and did not sustain any injuries. "No matter what you do with your life, I cannot bring you to safety," Dot cried out in triumph, his face flushed with happiness like a staring god. He removed his cloak, uncovering black chakra armor that enveloped his chest. Even though Gamakichi was skilled, his ninjutsu couldn't match the capabilities of Dot's chakra armor, and it was outmatched by Dot's black blizzard dragons. If he were to use taijutsu, Dot would not be at risk of harm. He had to resume the fight. He had no other alternative since he didn't want Gamaken to interfere and give Dot some free shot at the crew. The Nine-Tails' mocking laughter was the only response it had to the tyrant. Although Naruto claimed to have relied on his own power, it was not defensible to ask for help. The lives of Samui, his fellow captives, and their own lives were in danger. Show him what happens when you mess with the Nine-Tailed Fox's Jinchuriki. The Nine-Tailed Fox's body was overwhelmed by the force of his chakra, which shrunk the metal seal and returned him his sensor. While Samui was unconscious but breathing, Gamakichi was subjected to some brutal blows from Dot's ninjutsu and one heavy punch. Naruto appeared in front of Gamakichi, with claws that were longer than usual, whiskers that had darkened, and fangs on his bottom lip that protruded. The rascal was on the brink of killing his spouse and threatened to kill Gamakichi if he didn't intervene. "Gamakichi, hurry up!" Naruto screamed. Despite the situation, Gamakichi leapt to his death. It had been a while since he had actively employed this power. He had to remain composed and focused on winning, even with the devastation and fury of the Nine-Tails. A single tail was observed. It would be satisfactory. Dot conveyed that, "Your best efforts will never be satisfactory. I am immortal." Dot shouted, but Naruto dodged two black blizzard dragons with his baton feet before sprinting away, eventually reaching the oppressor. Naruto declared, "It is all for justice." A blood-red Rasengan was smashed into Dot's stomach by him. Despite the appearance of a deep purple chakra barrier, Naruto and the Nine-Tailed Fox's power was too great. The yin-yang emblem crumbled, and the Rasengan consumed the armor before it ignited. The eerie corpse of Dot was seen flying far beyond the cliff. Gamakichi greeted him and expressed his admiration by saying, "Wow." He scowled when he gazed at Naruto's chakra cover. The Nine-Tails chuckled, "Indeed." Naruto's expression was a grimace, as he found his inner peace. "Nine-Tails, thank you." Unanswered, no response. It was inconsequential. Naruto abandoned the demon fox's chakra and the outburst that ensued from it. He had fulfilled his responsibilities, but now he was weary. Nonetheless, there was still work to be done. With his sensor free from its chains, he moved it in the flex position. The brigade had a joyful moment as they descended the mountain after Dot's victory was announced. The crowd cheered, "Give me the princess. Vivi's Princess Koyuki." Samui shouted as he got up. The situation did not affect Koyuki's performance negatively. They had emerged victorious. The fact that they overthrew a dictator did not mean that his supporters would accept Dot's death. Naruto and Samui surrounded them for the next week, and they were unwilling to surrender until they presented the corpses of Dot's elite soldiers. The message was clear: if they were to fight, they would end up like their previous ruler. They waited in order to proceed. The castle had been seized and the coronation of Koyuki's was set to happen soon. Koyuki's official advisor, Sandy, was instrumental in navigating the difficulties of forming a new government and recruiting trusted officials. 2 weeks after Dot's downfall, Naruto stood beside Sandy waiting for Koyuki to be officially introduced to her subjects as their daimyo. A balcony overlooking the palace's central courtyard was available from a gathering room they were in. Sandy expressed his disbelief. I am still unable to believe that we've reached this point. He was attired in sweeping blue robes that were winded with ribbons. Naruto, we are grateful for your contribution to the story. I'm only putting in effort to complete my work. Sandy's smile was reminiscent of that of an unaided child, his face now brighter than ever. You've returned our country, and you opted to carry on with your mission. How I deceived you. I cannot plead with you to forgive me, but I will always be grateful for your help. Naruto's eyes were hard to see. I'd appreciate it if you could choose one of my preferred options. Provide assistance to the princess by being truthful with her when others will not do it. If you do, I'll forgive you. Sandy nodded with a sense of unrestricted conviction. It is unnecessary to request such a thing. It is my obligation and responsibility to fulfill it. Naruto finally gave himself a big hug and let his emotions be acknowledged. When Sandy extended his hand, he raised an eyebrow in agreement. It was briefly left to rest by Naruto, who then gave him a firm handshake. I am confident that you will be a good match for Koyuki. Despite the betrayal, Sandy's dedication to Koyuki exceeded his duty towards her father. Considering this, it was not difficult to forgive him for his betrayal. It was Koyuki who was truly betrayed, and it was her choice to trust Sandy. In the shadow of Samui, Koyuki entered the gathering room. The princess was adorned with elegant lavender robes made from silk. The red and gold shawl was covered with a hex crystal. She looked like a queen of the highest order and strolled towards the balcony with poise and grace. She was born with the intention to play this part, even though she may have been an actress. Samui waited for Koyuki to leave the balcony, standing beside him. Naruto seized the chance to examine the vicinity where his clones were still present, carefully disguised, and no one was taking any risks. The banners were raised with the Land of Snow's symbol and held in high regard. Sandy was granted permission by the man to present Koyuki with her crown. She rehearsed her speech and Naruto was impressed by her brilliance and passion. Samui stooped with ease, keeping her cool as she watched the crowd and the blue sky, except for Koyuki. Naruto Uzumaki was given a chills out in his stomach as he heard Koyuki tell him, "I'm so glad you brought me back home, because I know this young man who defeated Kazahana in single combat." Naruto walked onto the balcony to the cheering crowd and, after seeing the sparkle in Koyuki's eyes, looked grimacing. In recognition of Naruto's unwavering courage and valor during difficult times, I bestow upon him this medal, commending his contributions to our nation. Additionally, I guarantee that the Land of Snow will back Naruto in any disagreement. If he asks, we will provide immediate aid. Naruto's eyes grew bright, and Sandy put the gold medal around his neck as he tried to resist the temptation to smile. He was convinced by the crowd's applause and smiled. The fact that another warrior was awarded a medal is even more significant to me, given the exceptional bravery and unwavering professionalism that were essential in finding Kazahana. Naruto received Samui's greeting with his censer and witnessed her mouth sliding open. Although she didn't stay surprised long, he remembered it. He reacted with resignation as soon as she received the same gold medal he had earned. She remained unwavering, but he observed that the strain in her shoulders had subsided. Koyuki conveyed his gratitude by stating, "I am grateful for your continued support and love. I will endeavor to demonstrate my worthiness by governing like my father, and bring spring to the Land of Snow." Without a doubt, she was one of the world's best actresses. When the rituals had ended, Naruto was summoned to a mountainous area, enveloped by metal spires that extended skyward. Waiting for him, Koyuki was present. "Thank you for being with me," Koyuki stated. "You have a lot of places to explore, but this won't be long-lasting." Samui had already packed up their bags. Although Koyuki may have made some progress, Samui seemed to be slow to forget Yuki Fujike's negative attitude. It was better for Naruto to conceal the truth than to reveal it, causing Samui to rush and stare at him. Naruto's expression was one of dismissal. It's all good and dandy for me. Who is Samui? I'll have to ask her. With a giggle, Koyuki nodded in agreement. I tried to provoke her, but she wouldn't let it go without me breaking her. If she wasn't a ninja, she could become an actress. His eyes lit up with happiness as he imagined Samui's name in lights. What does it take to become an actress? She remarked, acknowledging the importance of having a good memory. To be considered an authentic actress, one must convince those around her that what she says does not matter how small or large their image, he said. We breathe new life into paper and create magic on the screen. Naruto questioned whether Kurenai had the same level of trust in her or was simply as good at bringing her story to life. You're not harboring any hatred towards being an actress anymore, Koyuki remarked, leading to a frown. I hated the fact that being an actress meant having to tell the truth. My life became a facade of self-deception after I deceived everyone, including myself, for an extended period. I had no memory of my desire to be a princess or an actress, but now I have the opportunity to become both. There was no doubt in his mind that Koyuki's acting skills would be showcased in another Princess Gale film or something else. Is Princess Koyuki, Daime of the Land of Snow, merely another game? Koid eyes wide open. I am prepared to take on the role of that. I have something to show you. She directed him to the Soul Shrine, which had a raised platform. She removed her hex crystal and placed it in the keyhole. The platform erupted, and the metal structures that emerged from the ground were illuminated by a brilliant rainbow. This is what my father has gotten, Koyuki declared. I comprehended what he was saying to me now. He assigned the fate of my nation, his vision of spring, because he had full trust in me with all his heart and soul. It will take some time for me to recover the truth, but I am certain that I can meet his expectations. Naruto's expression was a smile. I have faith in your ability to do it. Koyuki's expression was one of smile. Thanks to you, I can experience the joy of living and everything that comes with it, as you're the one who taught me how to navigate through life. It's a positive development to hear that. The adventure had reminded him of his past missions and inner struggles, and he was grateful that Koyuki had found the courage to move forward, free from the chains of the tragedy that consumed her. I'll be taking my time, Naruto said, before saying anything more. Are you taking it as a personal matter? Koyuki nodded in response to the question. Once this generator is fully developed, the Land of Snow will be transformed into the new Land of Spring thanks to state-of-the-art technology. Despite the fact that we didn't have these benefits, I would still stand by you. It is only appropriate that I return the favor. He sported a smiley expression. Thanks, Princess. She kissed his cheek softly. Naruto, I'm a friend now. If you want to call me by my name, please do so. Naruto smeared his nose. Koyuki, it's all right with you. He lowered his hand to his aid. No, huh? Koyuki quipped, may I have your autograph? It's clear that you possess the ability to do so. He paused to observe the rainbow, grass, and flowers that flowed through the ice and snow. His heroic actions resulted in the rescue of a princess and the liberation of another country. He was genuinely improving into the person he had always wanted to be. The following day, Naruto and Samui were on the ship that would transport them to the mainland. The temperature had reached quite high, prompting them to put on their usual clothing. Naruto inquired, "Do you believe that it was a fantastic mission?" after entering her room. "I thought it was really cool," she remarked. "More than I had anticipated." She had been glancing at her medal on numerous occasions, and now the medal was resting on her chest as he watched. "You were quite remarkable, really. The presence of your toads had a significant impact on my life." Naruto's expression was a smile. "Thanks to all of you. You were a pretty good person, too." He looked at Samui and observed her eye contact. "Can you teach me how to wield a sword, please?" Samui replied briefly before nodding off. Stay committed to your work ethic and avoid giving up easily. Talent is not a constraint. I will comply. After settling in, Naruto went back to his room and sat on the bed, immersed in his thoughts. He had delayed starting a conversation for an extended period, and there was no justification to continue it. In front of him, the nine-tailed fox was positioned behind its barred enclosure and the seal that secured it to his skin. Naruto. With a powerful and menacing voice, the nine-tailed fox spoke. Despite your best efforts to build yourself a strong and independent presence, you couldn't tolerate your failure. What led you to that point? It brought you back to me. Despite the situation, Naruto remained composed and refrained from making any facial expressions, except for a small frown. You were aware of my parents' existence, right? Why didn't you inform me earlier? The Ninetales quipped. You overlooked the fact that you never inquired. Unlike your godfather or those miserable humans, I am not subject to your laws or secrets. I wonder if it could have had any impact on Sarutobi's decision not to reveal this to him. His perception of Jiraiya was not impacted by his father's reputation, as they refused to tolerate it. The person in charge of his actions was genuinely concerned. It's not a question of course. Naruto looked at the Ninetales' radiant red eyes with fascination. You'll manipulate me and keep telling me lies, but only your way. Your intention is for me to utilize your power and rely on it, while also allowing you to escape from your seal. The Ninetales' rows of gleaming teeth were covered in saliva. Unlikely, but this is inescapable. To conquer your adversaries, one must make the most of their resources. You will rely on me, and when you become familiar with it, you will demand more. Naruto stated, yes, that is correct. I am aware of your desires, and if I were to leave, would also be seeking my freedom. It's not necessary for it to be like that. It's not necessary for you to jerk me around to force me to use your power. Whether you like it or not, we're stuck together and I want to work with you rather than rejecting you because of what my dad did. Another delightful boy. Naruto questioned whether you were deserving of my power as it was bestowed upon you by your father. I will be, but not yet, and you'll provide me with guidance. Believe it or not. Despite the nine-tailed fox's irritating and unappealing gaze, Naruto refused to let it control him as it was exploiting a bad situation for his own benefit. I'm not so sure if you're as foolish as I was. Naruto, that's a very good point. Your little game is on my mind. Presently. Naruto's steadfast smile transformed into a determined grunting behavior. Trust me when I say that we're going to do great things together. It spit, its mouth soars as it nearly knocks him off his feet. Keep your boundaries to yourself. I am entrusting my power to you, and you are the one who benefits. Let me know if you feel relieved that I've decided to honor your bravery. You grasped it. Naruto's eyes arose open when he saw it. It was a courageous act to overcome his resentment towards the Ninetales for manipulating him, just as Kurenai and Sarutobi did. But the Ninetales did admit it and he wouldn't know what if it never got in his head. Moreover, it didn't pretend to be his partner in order to accommodate the Ninetales' overbearing attitude. Knowing that he could embrace the nine-tailed fox's strength, his father knew there was a chance for him to do just that. A sword was a continuation of the arm's length. It traveled where it was directed. It was like a master's brush, with the paintbrush covering blood and the canvas covering the body. Naruto was not a genius, but with Samui's support, he was making progress. He never gave up a wooden sword blade before him, even if it was first. He always aimed to swing with his entire arm, gripping with firm hands but not tight. To reduce the wear and tear on his sword, he added a thin layer of chakra to sharpen it. He gradually developed his skills in swordplay, and once he had learned the basics, it was time to pick his own weapon. He had been taught by Samui to wield a tant and katana, with the latter being more concerned with his ability to use it in combat and the type of sword he felt comfortable using. The tant was a one-handed weapon that was both longer and shorter than kunais, but also had the ability to hold multiple chakras. Its optimal performance was in both the close range of assassination and in warding off longer-range swords. A katana was equipped with a slim, lengthy blade. The device's superior range and ability to execute swift, safe kills made it the ideal choice for achieving long-distance control. Even in close-quarters combat, the length of the katana proved to be a hindrance. For this reason, Samui used both swords so she could switch between them when needed. Nonetheless, Naruto's combat experience was unlike any other. He planned to use a sword when he couldn't use his speed and shadow clones or genjutsu were necessary, leaving behind only his sword. In light of this, he made the decision to engage in tant. Another good choice, Samui had stated. It's also my favorite. As a result, his training was intensified. Naruto was able to train during their non-mission activities. Naruto would perform a few katas if they were sleeping at camp. With his precision, Samui crafted his posture, swings, and feet until he moved like a perfectly poised machine. She was candid in her criticism, but never unfair. Samui utilized sparring as a chance to test his skills and beat him into submission. Even though he was faster than her, she put in a lot of physical strength by using the blows and punishing any gaps with brutal efficiency. Despite the pain of losing, it taught him, and 5 months of hard work had finally paid off. They used their actual swords for the first time in a clearing near an hotel in the Land of Fire, using their latest spar. Samui's trust in him was evident, and he was glad to have made it this far, given that live steel could be dangerous. He had the ability to heal injuries better than Samui, but missions could occur at any time, so it was best not to take risks. Naruto and Tant had a fight, with Naruki handling Samui's blow and moving swiftly to avoid her heal. The use of taijutsu in close quarters was encouraged to surprise opponents, and kenjutting was not restricted. The spar was prohibited from performing any jutsu as it was intended to enhance his blade-wielding abilities. Samui taught him to switch between swordplay and ninjutsu without any negative effects on his health during a real fight. Just as Samui was about to bring down her heel, Naruto slammed her front leg and she ended up on her feet with a cartwheel. After he slipped around her fist and tried to grab arms, she began to throw a tantrum before falling back on top of her, forcing him to flee. A master of Genjutsu had to possess skills such as anticipation, situational awareness, and adaptability. Despite being a master of Genjutsu, the use of the blade changed his approach. It was a stroke of luck that he wasn't required to be an expert, but rather possessed the ability to do so. Naruto moved in a low-lying motion, hitting his forearm against her sword arm and then pointing his tantrum at her neck. Naruto inquired if you yielded. Samui's tantrum was hanging dangerously close to his neck. She had used a reverse grip, placing her first foot between his feet, with her free hand poised to knock him off the ground. What was the speed at which she could finish it before he proceeded to stab her? We'll call it a draw, Samui replied, pulling back her knife. You've made yourself better, Naruto. Naruto's tantrum was covered in a charcoal gray cloth as he smiled and held his sword. I have a skilled teacher who is excellent. Samui gave a nod and then proceeded to kiss her. It's time to head to the hot springs. The spar will be explained in great detail when I come back. As per Naruto's words, 'cause it is a good thing to hear. After a long, prolonged stare, he watched as she left the room shaking in his stride and headed towards their hotel room. The closest he came to defeating Samui in their sparseness was achieved. It was unclear if he could opt for ninjutsu or genjutsu, but it would not. His improvement was evident from the minute it started. His martial art had evolved into Genjutsu by the time he was under her tutelage. With the fact that it would take some time to return from the hot springs, Samui opted to rest on his bed. Samui's shoulders and lower back were strained by her breasts, which placed her under undue stress. She found solace in a good soak, which helped calm her down and ease her body and mind after an intense ordeal. Naruto attempted to locate accommodations with a hot water bath and occasionally paid for them to keep Samui in good condition. He had the opportunity to personally indulge in the hot springs if he chose to do so. This was one of the reasons why Samui had become closer to him. If they were just teammates, they wouldn't be seated together in the same room. It was still hard to believe, but he had spent 5 months with Samui. With the exception of Jiraiya, it was the longest time he had spent together. Kurenai and his mission to the Land of Waves or their search for Tsunade had separated them, even though they were still in each other's hearts. Samui and his companions journeyed across the elemental nations, completing various missions and receiving commendations from their patrons. Despite not accomplishing anything to save another nation or princess, their missions covered a wide range of tasks, testing them in various ways. While walking inside the hotel room, Samui had a towel wrapped around her curves. She reached for her bed and dried her blonde hair before combing it. After completing the task, she laid back on the bed with her towel wrapped around her rear and upper thighs. She had piercing blue eyes and looked back at him. The most fitting word to describe Samui was the one that could be used. When it came to her passions, such as history or modern technology, she had the ability to speak a lot without hesitation. The majority of the time, her desires were conveyed through a simple sentence or an unobtrusive gesture. Her current request was for a back massage. After rolling over, he lifted the oil bottle from her nightstand and placed it on top of her muscular hips. He took a deep breath, spread the oil on his palms, and massaged them together with his fingertips. Following that, he started working. He initiated by rubbing the muscles in her lower back, reflecting on the amount of work she put into strengthening her back and shoulders and abs, and how she constantly sought ways to overcome her challenges. Naruto had offered to massage Samui's back about 3 months ago, after a challenging mission that had left her unable to function for an extended period. Reluctantly, she agreed, as long as she remained fully clothed and sat on her back. It was not his preference, as he didn't want to be tempted or push her too hard. Although she was tense from his touch and didn't seem to enjoy it, she returned to her usual state of mobility after he was done. A week later she asked him to get a massage and it became part of our routine. As she became more at ease with him, she gave her permission for him to touch her back as she lay on the floor. Last week, she revealed her bare back to him and fixed him with her penetrating gaze, clearly indicating what she wanted him to do. He declined to undergo testing and was about to turn down, but a statement from her left him with no lasting impact. "It's fine. Let me know if you like it." It was confirmation that allowed him to massage her sore muscles, and it was another reason why he had Jiraiya. Jiraiya's massage classes were his way of satisfying the old perv, but it had been a skill that had yielded positive results. Naruto's hands were positioned along her spine and worked on her shoulders, concluding with her lower back. He had to find the right balance between an intense massage and a tender one, and the pleasant sounds in her mouth indicated that he was doing well. While he was getting a massage, she fell asleep and waited for him to notice the peaceful expression on her face. Her beauty was truly breathtaking. He refused to let himself indulge in these massages for that matter. He didn't want to go down that path until he had settled his affairs once and for all. Eventually, Naruto finished massaging her backside. The bottle of oil was stowed away on the nightstand, and he took his seat on his bedside table. They were perfectly happy that the oil soothed their skin and left very little residue. "Thank you," Samui said, before turning his attention to him. Naruto's expression was one of pure happiness, as he smiled. "We extend a warm welcome to you. Is it possible that we'll discuss that spar now?" Smoke billowed from the ceiling, and Naruto examined the chakra signature that erupted at the base of his bed. "Hey, there," Naruto said, gesturing towards a small red messenger toad. A scroll was also held up by the toad. "Hi, I'm Naruto. Good luck, everyone. I desire to come here with positive news." Naruto snatched the scroll and read aloud its contents. The Kazekage has been taken captive by the Akatsuki. His heart raced. Jiraiya's information suggests that they should have had more time to mobilize the Akatsuki, which was not intended to happen at this point. Deidara and Sasori of the Red Sands took Gaara captive at night. I'm not physically able to help you out on the street at this time, but Tsunade has sent 2 teams to investigate. Samui and you will meet at the boundary between the Land of Wind and the Land of Rivers. You are tasked with aiding in the recovery of Gaara from the Akatsuki and, if feasible, apprehending Deidara and/or Sasori. Take all necessary measures to ensure that this mission is concluded without delay. Jiraiya's signature was positioned at the foot. The toad was deeply in Naruto's breath, and he nodded off. He looked back at Samui after it had left, avoiding eye contact as soon as he saw her get dressed. It was a positive thing that he hadn't taken off his gear. He was prepared to respond to the call of the Akatsuki who had finally come knocking. The leaves swayed. The limbs crumpled. The air experienced a sharp gust. Naruto ascended from his seat of terror, landing in an open field alongside his adversary and his supporters. With both eyes wide open, Kakashi looked ahead. Sakura's hands were clasped tightly as he struck the ground, his muscles in motion. The old woman that was with them had a calculated look in her eye, while the brown pug appeared to prefer avoiding me. The adversary was tall and slim, wearing a black veil with red-painted clouds. Naruto's hair was in a ponytail, black, and he saw 2 Sharingan moving with his sensor. The leaf emblem on his forehead protector was cut across the center. Itachi Uchiha referred to Naruto Uzumaki. As a final conclusion, we're back to the meeting. Naruto's expression was a murmur, with aloof facial expressions. I am exceptional, in a way that only I can say. Samui was present at his feet, providing him with the strength he required. The man who had killed the Uchiha clan was in direct contact with him, a master of Genjutsu and unchallenged. Itachi was once the last person he thought about encountering on the battlefield, but his growth had persisted and his chakras were too small to sustain him. Naruto inquired, "Are you all alright with the situation?" In these moments, it's not uncommon to be ready to move quickly, Kakashi declared. It appears that Itachi was not bothered by their conversation. Was he confident in his abilities? We're ready to engage, Sakura declared, looking ahead with an unnerving gaze. Sakura, please take care of me, Kakashi declared. Come face to face with your job, she said. Itachi remarked that it was important to follow your teacher's advice. If you were to die before your reunion, what would Sasuke say to you? Sakura stepped forward, and the earth trembled. Beneath her. I bring your head inside, and he'll be speechless. Naruto said with horror, but Sakura didn't look surprised with Sakuri's scowl. She had a very strong physique. Very well suited. Itachi wriggled in response. Naruto deflected the shuriken with a gust of wind and charged ahead of Kakashi, blocking Itachi's kunai with his tanton. With the kunai in his grasp, Itachi attacked him, but Naruto maintained eye contact with him using his sensor and managed to escape the Sharingan's clutches. He retreated and maneuvered around Itachi's group of Inferno, cursing the water scarcity on the grassy meadow. A bullet had come close to him, but he was prepared, and a burst of fire caught the bullet in mid-air, disarming it. You have some talent, Itachi remarked. He tapped him with his index finger. In order to survive, you must demonstrate more than just that. Despite the danger and tension involved, confronting one of the most formidable ninjas on the planet was an exhilarating experience. Naruto chucked a kunai that fell flat at Itachi's chest. Itachi's smile was evident as the shot went through his head. Sarutobi's voice, Itachi, remarked that it was disappointing. This is a more effective approach to managing things. You won't pose a risk to anyone. Naruto, Kurenai said, I taught you more, he said. I'm confident that I won't be surprised by anything. Without you, there's nothing more important to me. Naruto quickly resorted to brushing his teeth and breaking the illusion. The dirty trick was something he would use if given the chance, but it wasn't beneficial to him. Itachi was in his guard, with Sakura also present and kunai outstretched. Itachi was punched by her just moments before the upper body burst into flames with blood. It floated in the air for a brief period of time. The blood transformed into the murder of black crows, which merged with the clone Naruto's death and emerged from their bodies a few meters away. Itachi was saved from harm as Naruto reunited with his friends and Sakura followed suit. According to Sakura Haruno, it appears that you could be more than a nuisance. Naruto, how are you feeling? Sakura inquired. I'm doing fine, Naruto declared. Are you holding up well? Sakura asked, glancing at her. Once I hit the target, I'll be much more successful. Itachi was unresponsive to any stimuli. Naruto, it's important to note that your reputation isn't the only thing worth knowing about as a genjutsu. If Mangekyou Sharingan were able to defeat the Blade of Illusion, how would it fare? Kakashi advised against attacking him alone and not trying to harm him. The danger of ingesting Itachi is too great to be taken lightly. Naruto looked into the Sharingan, but Sakura nodded in response. Itachi is far from the only one, and Kakashi-sensei is my preferred choice. Our adversary is nothing but a replica of an identical individual. Naruto appeared in front of Itachi, with Rasengan twirling in his palm, before Kakashi could answer. He said, next time, bring your best clothes or don't come here. Shrunk it all over Itachi's torso as he went. The body fell to the ground, and Itachi's figure flickered away, revealing the remains of a deceased sand ninja. Disturbing. He was accompanied by Samui, who made a disapproving frown. He was obstructing us, Naruto declared. We'll need to make arrangements to get back to the drawing board. You're ready to go, she exclaimed. Naruto diverted his chakras and avoided the Akatsuki's unfortunate victim. Are you on the move? Kakashi inquired from behind. Naruto turned to face his former teacher. You can't waste any time. I'm aware of that, Kakashi said, with a headband resting on his eye. He had not undergone any external changes, but his internal reserves had grown exponentially. We'll be heading out together, you know. Gaara was in peril, and with every minute of spare time, the possibility of saving him grew more dim. Even so, he was part of a team, and Kakashi was more senior than him. It would be preferable to confront the Akatsuki with more people. Yes, Kakashi-sensei is right. Naruto, how long has it been? Sakura smiled at him. Her face glowed with brightness as a result of its effect. Naruto's smile was returned. It has, of course, been a good thing. Sakura's hair was voluminous and full of life, moving freely in the breeze. Her green eyes were still sparkling, and her forehead was clear, with a red headband tied at the crown of her head. Despite the fact that she had swapped her bold red dress for a snug dark red shirt with contrasting white stripes, flaunting her toned body and muscular build with black shorts. With her fists wrapped in black gloves and her knees laced with black sandal boots. Her chakra was being directed towards a spot on her forehead, but her chakra reserves were still refined and powerful. A stark reminder of the crush he had on her a long time ago was given to him. Naruto inquired, where did you gain the knowledge to fight in that manner? Sakura stated that she had been taught by Lady Tsunade. Sakura chuckled at the thought, how is GR, the Hokage faring now? Very well suited for a job. Without her presence, I wouldn't have made it this far. That's a good indication, Naruto declared. With her notorious strength, it appeared that Sakura had acquired Tsunade's secret weapon by being able to almost kill Itachi's clone in one shot. Sakura inquired about his colleague. Samui placed a hand on her hip. From the hidden cloud, my name is Samui. Sakura's expression was one of pure happiness. My name is Sakura. I'm glad to have the pleasure of meeting you. As well, you are. The old woman was still keeping an eye on him. She sported a black long-sleeve dress, paired with revealing white ponchos similar to those worn by Hidden Sand members. A bun of dark brown was worn around the gray hair. Although it was his first time seeing her, he still believed she might be the esteemed older Chiyo of the Hidden Sand. I'm still there, the pug said, causing Naruto to be shocked with his fiery voice. He had a preference for talking toads, but not dogs. Nodding was a gesture that Kakashi did. Take the lead, Pakken. Kakashi had faith in him, and if he could save Gaara, it was all well and good. Pakken led the newly formed team as they hurried through the trees towards their destination. Naruto was in close pursuit, not wanting to waste a single second. Kakashi followed him, and he felt a sense of nostalgia. The atmosphere was reminiscent of the olden days, it appeared. Kakashi-sensei, how is your performance going? Naruto asked, using the honorific as a way of saying thank you. In all honesty, it's not a bad outcome. Despite Naruto's familiarity with the situation, they both found stillness while traveling. Naruto, you've grown up more than ever before. He stated it as if it were clear, because that was the case. Despite facing personal challenges and challenging training, Naruto emerged victorious and successfully completed numerous missions. He had not only grown in confidence but also with his own abilities and the person he wanted to become. Naruto expressed his satisfaction by saying, I'm glad I did. I share the same beliefs and values as I do. It wasn't until Kakashi came up to his side a few more times that it was apparent. Are you certain about what you wanted? The serious tone and the raised voice made it clear what he was referring to. I did, Naruto declared. Kakashi sighed. I acknowledge the statement. To tell you the truth, you never had to watch anything. Naruto's nod was strong and firm. I am grateful for your help, which is why I say, thank you. Despite not knowing who was watching him or how much the news had hurt him, Kakashi still found his words to be very meaningful. He surveyed the surroundings. While Sakura was positioned in the center and Chiyo was hidden from view, Samui watched closely. The experience was just as enjoyable as any other. Kakashi-sensei, what's up? My dad was a man of great coolness. Kakashi's eye widened and he smiled at his companion. He was the most impressive person I've ever encountered. He would be filled with pride if you were like him. Naruto's expression was accompanied by a troubled smile. It is my expectation that you will. He expressed his regret by saying, I wish I had spoken to you sooner, lacing his words. Is it possible that you could tell me who my father was? Naruto's eyes lit up with happiness. Don't worry about it. Sarutobi chose to keep it a secret from him, not Kakashi. Kakashi's prompt reaction indicated that achieving such was more than mere wishful thinking. Chiyo contacted Kakashi after their conversation ended, asking if he could introduce himself. Naruto expressed his pleasure in meeting Lady Chiyo, saying, it's a great honor to greet you. The person in question is Naruto Uzumaki. I've heard a lot of things about you. Chiyo expressed his confidence by stating, it's all good. Naruto's expression was one of pure happiness, as he smiled. With Temari's assistance, it was unexpected to see Naruto embark on a quest for such impressive stature, as she was already aware of her mastery in poisons and puppet production. She was set to retire. Naruto expressed his surprise by saying, I don't know what you're up to, after sharing his thoughts. I have a crush on somebody, she said, and she left it be. It took the team almost a full day to reach the point where Pakken was leading them. Even with full speed, Naruto had a considerable distance to cover without being left behind or his reserves. He had a lot of energy, but it wasn't the only factor. Gaara's survival was frustrating, and he had to be patient. While on the journey, Kakashi disclosed to the team why Gaara had been taken captive by the Akatsuki and why Naruto was at risk due to his status as a Jinchuriki. He also learned that Chiyo had been the one to lure Shikaku, the one-tailed beast, into Gaara. He was careful not to answer. There was an occasion and time for it, not in the middle of a mission. He had to be quiet so that he wouldn't have to hear her excuses. After Kakashi had recounted his story, Samui had made a request to join him. They had been stationed in different areas of the formation for most of their journey, so they didn't have many opportunities to interact with each other. "You are a Jinchuriki," Samui declared. Naruto nodded as he spoke. Given that he had used the Nine Tails chakra multiple times and meditated to regulate his reaction to its potent, disordered energy, it wasn't surprising that she had been questioning him. Furthermore, her sensei was Killer Bee, who acted as a Jinchuriki. "I'll stand by you," she declared. Naruto's gaze flickered, and a smile appeared on his face. "Thanks, Samui." Despite being a foreign ninja with no justification, she had been good to him. He expressed his appreciation for her acceptance and encouragement. Naruto only became aware of 4 distinct chakra types in a short period of time. He contemplated rushing ahead, but their arrival was soon to come, and in the event of the Akatsuki's presence, he required all the help obtainable. They would not be attempting to waste his time, but rather trying to destroy him. A sizable torii gate stood across a broad river where the ninja were waiting. Without any hesitation, the team was able to close the gap and join them. "I mean, Kakashi, how's your day going?" He had not changed in any way, which was unsurprising for a ninja with such experience. "I'm a guy, and I like to make myself really big on the stage," Kakashi explained. Guy's teammates were observed by Naruto as he looked on. Lee had grown taller and stronger, but otherwise remained the same. Tenten donned a white long-sleeved blouse with red trim and red hakama pants, adorned with oversized green scrolls on her back, and had her hair styled in twin buns. Niji Haiga's presence was the most unexpected aspect of their gathering. A black glove encircled his right arm, and he was attired in an uncomplicated white shirt and matching pants, with a dark gray sleeve covering his waist. His chakra resonated with the fire-infused energy of his mother, and his white eyes were a serene presence. "Are you our backups?" Naruto inquired. The man smiled with gleaming teeth. "That's correct. A team of theirs had years of experience and camaraderie, and since everyone was proficient in close quarters or weapon combat, they were a formidable force." Lee expressed his admiration for Naruto by saying, "It is good to see you," with a smile that was equally large as his sensei's. Tenten's expression was accompanied by a smile. "I can't believe how long it has been gone." Naruto asked with a smile. "Exquisite. I'm glad to see you again, guys. Smiling became less of a chore for me." Koyuki had demonstrated that he didn't have to wear a cold mask constantly to hide his discomfort. He was able to smile and be genuine without being heartless. Niji questioned whether Naruto was with her, staring at Samui. The memory of their last meeting, where she defended her teammate from being killed by Niji's hand, hit him like a freight train. He was on the brink of protecting her, but he witnessed Samui's advancement. "Yes," Samui replied. "How are you doing?" Niji's face revealed a menacing expression. "It's a good question to ask. There's no need to worry anymore, I don't mean to hurt you," she said. It's cold, but Naruto wasn't even able to imagine the coldness in her eyes. He observed the boulder and noticed 2 things about it. It had a tag on it, and his sensor became fuzzy when he looked at it. Naruto stated that there was a barrier around the seal. He pushed his sensor out of the way. Through meditation, he has been able to increase his vision and reach a distance of 600 meters in the past 5 months. His sensor enabled him to see in all directions without any blind spots on his body. He could gaze through walls and other obstructions while focused, and his sensor would indicate if there were any chakra signatures on the opposite side. The main constraint was that he had to be actively attentive to achieve the best results from his range. In addition, as his range grew, the more he focused, there was more chakra that had to be expended. He became a target if he used it for too long. The 25-meter zone of his vision was created for this purpose, which automatically alerts him to any potential chakra signatures in the vicinity. Without any chakra activation, it could function without much effort. However, he could only spot 2 seals in what appeared to be a 5-point barrier seal. Are there any other seals that can be seen by you, Niji? Naruto inquired. The Byakugan's activation caused Niji to nod and his veins around his eyes to bulge. Yes, of course. The specimen is situated on a rock about 500 meters northeast, on an apple about 350 meters southeast, the third on top of cliff 650 meters northwest, and lastly in birch at its base 800 meters southwest. Naruto nodded and created foreshadow clones that fled to reach the seals. Thanks, Niji. After my clones successfully remove the seals, we are ready to go inside. Lee shared a humorous anecdote. Tenten remarked that it has made our lives more convenient, which is quite impressive in Naruto. Guy frowned at the boulder, stating that it was not the right time to be complacent. We have a short window of time before our adversary strikes, so it's important to prepare for the fight. It was a wise decision. Provided they had no cover, nobody would create a barrier of this strength, and the traditional 4-ninja team couldn't exploit the 5-point seal, as none of them could generate genuine clones. The tags were difficult to locate and far away, which would only waste time if the team had access to a strong sensor. It was obvious that he couldn't handle this on his own. The reminder was that he couldn't do everything by himself, but it was also an encouragement to have. He experienced the appearance of memories, which were derived from shadow clones he had sent to them. Naruto stated that his clones are present at the tags. What's the next step? Kakashi suggested, stating that all 5 tags must be removed simultaneously. Afterward, we'll proceed with the buttonhook formation. Do you think that's a good question, Guy? Niji is the one who should be ogled. Is it appropriate for me to break the boulder? Sakura asked, gripping a glove. Save, Tak, don't be stupid. They had figured out their plan, and Naruto quickly secured the tag. After being dispelled, a clone provided instructions to his other counterparts, and Naruto then took out the slip of paper on 3 occasions. Sakura was pushed forward by jets of water that launched upwardly. Chakra formed at the tip of her fist, and with one devastating punch Sakura shredded the boulder into rubble so as to crack an entrance to the cave. After Sakura made contact, Naruto leaped off the rock. Upon landing on the water, he looked up and saw that she had a smile on his face and showed him pride. Itachi's aggression was initially viewed as bravado, but his observation of her behavior changed. Confidence is not only about being strong, but also about having the ability to overcome failure and tragedy that would make a lesser-known person feel confident. The confidence that could transform an individual into something inconceivable was one such thing. It was evident that Sakura had reached new heights, just like her previous success. Guy, Chio, Sakura, and Tenten were among the 9 ninjas who entered the cave from the left, while Kakashi, Lee, Samui, Naruto were on the right. On the outside, Niji was present and keeping a watchful eye. Naruto was taken aback when he saw Gaara lying on the cave floor, his eyes shut. He was sitting on someone else's body. "You finally made it to our group," the man declared. "Humph. Temporarily." He was a resident of the Hidden Rocks. The left side of his face was concealed by long blonde hair and a black cloak with red clouds. He was a lifeless individual. Naruto wore a cool mask. He had to wait for the perfect moment to strike. The blonde man exclaimed, "What the heck is that?" "Regrettably for you, the Jinchuriki is on your side. He has already departed from this world." Gaara's face was raped by him twice with his knuckle, and she didn't respond. Naruto had to be honest, as he did not find anything about Gaara's chakra when examining him. Gaara's demise was a tragedy. It was already too late for them to be able to make it. He stepped forward, teeth grinding against each other. She shook her head as Samui placed his hand on his shoulder and proceeded to turn around towards her. He perceived the unease in her eyes and induced relaxation before attempting to shred him. The blond man said, "I guess you're the Jinchuriki," looking at him with his stooping blue eyes that didn't seem to understand. If the hunched man was Sasori, then it could be Blonde Deidara. "What's your opinion?" Sasori's face was the only thing missing from his black cloak, and his mouth was concealed by a beard-like mask. His hair was wrapped around 5 black spikes. Sasori chimed in, "I believe I'll capture the old Kazekage," with a snappy voice. The Jinchuriki's unwavering determination to bring him back is evident, even though his remains hold some value. Deidara screamed. "You're convinced that? What's the reason?" Deidara muttered with a subtle smile. "I understand that it may be difficult for you to hear this, but I want to ensure that the Jinchuriki is taken care of properly. We have a limit, and will adhere to it," Sasori declared, gesturing towards his partner. "You've already eliminated one Jinchuriki. Don't be too hard on yourself. In standard circumstances, I would permit you to do what you wanted," Deidara declared. "I wouldn't have a problem competing with all the ninjas in this room, but I wanted to make sure I was doing my best. To sustain an artist's senses, they must strive for greater stimulation." Sasori warned that it would be a waste of time to waste his time. "Is it possible for me to? I was told that the Jinchuriki of the 9 Tails, along with copy ninja Kakashi and the Leaf's verdant beast, would be quite strong. The only things I see are paintings that showcase my art." The twilight of Sasori's scorpion tail was noticeable. Art is a form of artistic expression that involves the preservation of beauty through observation and reflection. Deidara asked, "Are you capable of capturing an explosion?" You can capture the essence of the moment in a video recording. The moment is fleeting and cannot be equated with art, as it denotes eternal beauty. The dispute between the two individuals over art or their lack of fear towards the ninjas assigned to defeat them was beyond Naruto's understanding. At what point does an eternal explosion meet the criteria for eternal beauty? Deidara inquired. Guy whispered, "Ten-ten," and Ten-ten spit out 5 shuriken that were so loud that they could barely be seen without glasses. Sasori's tail deflected all 5 shuriken, and he didn't move a muscle. Sasori suggested that his point of view might be valid if he had not been attacked, as it could potentially spark an eternal explosion. Deidara screamed. "You caused me harm by inflicting it on myself. Both of us are artists, so I respect your perspective. While I can appreciate the allure of an everlasting form that captivates its audience and prompts profound contemplation about the essence of your artwork, is my work depleted by its transience?" "Yes," Sasori responded. "Memories are short-lived, and like your confetti explosions, the memory of your art will fade away to be forgotten for all time. Is the purpose of your art to preserve an indefinite memory that will fade away and disappear as time passes?" according to Deidara's response. Like he was chewing something, his palm began to move. Art is intended to provoke emotion, and what more powerful response can be expected than to produce a moment that endures indefinitely? "Okay, I don't share that view, man. I made it clear that my words would not be well received by you." Sasori yelled with laughter. "Deidara, are you attempting to provoke me into anger?" Deidara released a white clay bird after asking, "Why don't you tell me about your art again?" It rapidly grew and swallowed Gaara in its mouth. "Art is an explosion, and while some may view art as eternal beauty, your grotesque puppets are not." "Humph." Sasori's scorpion tail lunged at Deidara, but he leapt on top of it and took off. While attempting to bring Deidara back, Naruto's eyes were cut into shreds. He didn't have to worry about Lee's actions, as she stood up for him. Deidara was knocked back to earth as Lee ran over the cave wall, jumped off and spun while thundering Leaf Hurricane. Naruto disappeared from sight and hurried towards Deidara before he could rise again. Sasori launched a wave of Senbon at him, but was able to avoid being hit by them. He was aware that the Senbon were heading towards the others, but Samui was present, and she ignited them to shatter them. Kakashi yelled, "Naruto!" He was immediately aware of the new Senbon launched by Sasori, which had flown much faster than the previous batch. With his breath, Naruto expelled a lot of wind and deflected them away. After that, he took hold of Deidara's throat and forced him into the cave. "You're thinking that you can sit on Gaara's body and get away?" Naruto asked, grimacing at the irrational bomber. "I have and I will," Deidara declared, his eyes filled with wonder. "You're not aware of anything, are you?" Naruto asked, gripping down on Deidara's throat and exposing his teeth. As Lee dealt with the destruction of his clay bird, Deidara's gaze raised upwardly, indicating that it was not capable of anything other than being taken away by its owner. Gaara's corpse was embraced by Lee as the clay bird lay dormant in his arms. Lee stated that he had found Gaara's body, as reported by Naruto. Naruto's nod was a brief but impressive gesture. "I am grateful for your help, which is why I say, thank you." The strength of Lee was undeniable, and he formed an emotional connection with Gaara due to their shared battle. He was confident in his ability to trust him. Deidara gasped in disbelief, evoking laughter. "Why is that?" "He's dead inside. It's time to take a look at the others we took." They were feared and loathed because of someone else's decision to seal a tailed beast in their bodies. They lived a life of isolation and hardship. I believe that they would be better off if they were alive. Naruto pressed Deidara's hand against the wall and grabbed his wrist. "I'll triumph over you all." He snorted with a hacking cough and spittle dribbling on his lips, aware that they will never catch him again as long as he remains alive. As Gaara was, you're also distinct from everyone else. He had a few people who were caring and understanding. In the end, it's inconsequential. No matter how much you try, we'll catch all the tailed beasts. It's conceivable that you'll be fortunate enough to have someone come to your rescue before you pass away. Every cell in his body had a desire to eliminate Deidara, who was standing there, so that he could not harm anyone else. If he were to be apprehended, they could uncover the workings of the Akatsuki and come up with innovative tactics to overcome them. Deidara's palm was pierced by a clay spider that emerged from his mouth. Naruto observed the spider's chakra enlarge and then leaped back. The spider didn't cause any harm, but Deidara was still alive. He charged at Lee and threw the spider at Naruto in the same way. This time, the spider ejected and Naruto was forced to flee. That allowed it to give Deidara enough time to catch up to Lee and reveal a hedgehog in his palm, using it as bait. Deidara yelled, "Let's demonstrate the hedgehog," while throwing it at a Naruto who was close by. The hedgehog spun and curled up, but Naruto managed to avoid the explosion. Lee was unable to assist him, and by the time the smoke had dissipated, Deidara had retrieved Gaara's body. Despite being crushed to the ground, Lee managed to revive himself by jumping up and down from the cave. Naruto observed Sasori Senbon hunters repelling their opponents. He gnawed his teeth and chased after Deidara before he could flee. As he was about to depart, Samui made an appearance at his side. He could be lucky that she wasn't hurt, which was a rare thing. Naruto stated that he was going after Deidara. "Come with me," Samui said, and her tone was incongruous. "Just sayin' and I won't take any action." "It's time for you to receive more assistance," Kakashi remarked. "Deidara desires to be alone with you." Samui exhibited a frown. "Naruto is capable of holding his own against Deidara, and I will be there to support him in his fight." Chio instructed his listeners to proceed, saying, "Go ahead. My grandson is dear to us, let's make sure he remains under our care." Naruto looked into the attentive ninja and observed as she saw her unwavering determination covering every line on her face. "I wish you all the best for the future." Kakashi's jaw muscles tightened. "Be careful, you two are not the slack off." It's important to remember that your life is more significant than the task at hand. Naruto's expression was a smile. We'll be cautious, but it's important to keep in mind that we won't go off the beaten path. Guy stated that if Sasori loses, they will be joined by you. In the meantime, keep him in your thoughts. It's a good thing. Naruto left the cave with Samui to witness Neji and Deidara fighting. Gaara's body was used by Deidara as a shield, and then she leaped onto the cliff to head towards the forested region, steering clear of Neji's flames that he had unleashed from his palm. We're targeting Deidara, Neji, Naruto declared. The rest are battling Sasori of the Red Sands. Neji's expression was one that indicated a frown. Let me reassure you that I cannot leave without you. I've witnessed Sasori engage in combat, and I think my abilities will be more effective when compared to Deidara. Naruto inquired of Samui. What's your opinion? Samui glared at Neji and contorted her facial muscles. I am fine with it, she said. Naruto stated, let's go now, after a brief discussion. You can't waste any time. Naruto, Samui, and Neji journeyed through the open field before pursuing Deidara into a dense forest. They chose to take Neji in a triangle formation, as he would be the first to see Deidara, and they were quick to keep him in their sights. On Naruto's right, Samui looked calm and focused while his gaze revealed a slight curling of her eyebrows. Neji's actions towards her colleague were still fresh in her mind, and Samui held a harsh grudge. Besides that, her fury was the kind of thing that ran like an infected cut. Despite her ability to keep it under control and act in a professional manner, he never liked the sight of it. Neji cautioned against doing anything inappropriate, stating, prudence is key. We're bound to a trap. Naruto positioned his sensor and noticed 20 dots of chakras located in clusters around the tree branches. They resembled spiders with sizable hind legs. Naruto utilized hand seals to cram thousands of lethal wind scythes and tamed the spiders in the forest until they could detonate. The three ninja groups separated, navigating through damaged branches and fallen trees. Neji utilized his wind jutsu to catch clay scorpions that Naruto had not caught, and then flicked 2 shuriken on either side. Despite being waiting for them, more traps were used to detonate explosives instead of setting one down in the forest. When clay animals attacked, Samui caught them in a net created by lightning chakra, which completely neutralized the attackers. Naruto said, "It is pretty cool, don't you think?" Samui nodded as he finished. Absolutely charming. Keeping our eyes on the prize is important, Neji cautioned, albeit with a somewhat unimpressive tone. He had not publicly voiced his displeasure with the hidden cloud for most of their alliance, but it seemed like he hadn't completely moved on. Ultimately, the three ninja found themselves in a vast expanse of land encompassed by enormous trees. Deidara was positioned on the other side of the clearing, while Gaara's body lay at his feet. "Are you interested in him?" Deidara asked. "You're in trouble, buddy." Naruto yelled out and proceeded to charge at Deidara. Naruto's grasp began to tremble and explode as Deidara looked happy. When the smoke dissipated, Naruto was nowhere to be found, but he always took advantage of it. "I'm pleased to hear you're still here," Deidara declared. Naruto's decision to use a shadow clone to trigger the explosion was justified, as he had made himself invisible from Deidara. He remained motionless, but the real challenge of retrieving Gaara's body had been made clear. The clearing was strewn with explosives and other traps, which would ensure their death if they took the wrong approach. Moreover, Naruto had to be attentive to perceive tiny fragments of chakra scattered throughout the area, dispersed like smoke. Neji stated that Deidara can rapidly enhance the concentration of chakra in his clay from a distance. The last explosion was triggered by that, which is how he started it. Naruto's expression was a murmur. It's a positive development to know. Are there any areas where exploding would be safe? Samui inquired. Naruto responded with, yes, as if to convey his message. Just follow my lead and you'll see the results. With a firm nod to his companion, Samui followed Naruto and quickly moved around the areas with significant crowds of detonating clay before being disregarded by Deidara, who tried to catch them off guard with their unpredictable explosions. Within a minute, they reached Deidara, and Naruto used Rasengan to incapacitate him by punching his chest. Deidara's facial features grew larger and more elongated, his skin turned milky white as she smirked. "God bless you," Deidara cried out. Naruto screamed, "Samui." By using her tant, Samui stabbed Deidara and channeled lightning chakra into him, which prevented the explosion from happening. Deidara had enticed them with an exploding clone. Naruto observed a clay raccoon poking out of Gaara's chest as his body had been abandoned. The raccoon was destroyed by lightning that struck from above before it could detonate. Despite not being resuscitated, it wouldn't harm Gaara as blue sparks ignited all over him. Naruto yelled out, "Bastard!" Ninjas were equipped with a range of dirty tricks, but this was taking them to the extreme. "Let's focus on Naruto," Samui declared. "We're on the verge of making it." Naruto wasted no time in creating a clone to recover Gaara's body and searching for Deidara's real remains. The hunt for Deidara was on as Neji approached her hiding spot in the trees. Neji was bombarded by a clay bird, but managed to hit it with his left hand and leave the inert bomb behind. He followed Deidara and slammed his gloved right hand into his chest. Deidara's body was surrounded by an array of black seals before being ignited. Deidara bent over. An explosive tag was attached to the bark of a log that appeared in his place. "Art is a firework, even in its raw form," Deidara shouted, returning to the clearing. Neji defended him by dropping the explosive tag and then led Deidara to safety. "Shut up," Neji urged. "Your explosions can be annihilated by us, and there's no point in running out of clay. Deidara, you're gone." Deidara's expression was one of happiness. "I admit that using lightning chakra to halt my artwork was a clever tactic, but the most talented artists have learned to adapt." It was time to conclude this task. Despite Deidara's efforts to create a clay bird and launch it at Naruto and Samui, the bird turned into typhoid, which betrayed his ability to produce authentic art. "Shame!" Deidara proclaimed. He was scowling, his eye red with a manic anger. "Genjutsu is nothing more than a giant farce, and I'm amazed that my art can be contained within it." The manipulation of parlors was all that was left, of course. Naruto said with a scowling voice. "These parlor tricks are capable of defeating you in a heartbeat." Another clay bird was released by Deidara, but this time it was not true. It sped away from Naruto once more. Naruto unleashed a kunai that caused it to be split in two. Deidara forged the hand seal that granted him permission to ignite his clay, but there was no response. He spit out a clay spider that was running towards them. "What the hell is going on?" With a shuriken in hand, Samui pointed at it without hesitation. Deidara yelled out, "Explode," but couldn't quite deliver the message. He said, "Genjutsu will never keep my art." Reaching into his pouch, he took out a shuriken made of clay and threw it out. Naruto dodged the shuriken by shouting, "Take this," and, like others, Deidara did not release his art to the ignorant masses. Deidara roared in furious laughter. "You're not alone in your sentiment. Are you a good listener? What's the fate of my art?" Naruto asked the irrational bomber. Neji shook his head in anger and said, "You killed Gaara." He added, "He's been beaten up, Naruto. Let's wrap it up here." Naruto's response was, "No," and his eyes flickered red with a faint expression. He should start by enduring pain. Samui's gaze widened to include an unease as he stared at him. "Did you miss our mission?" Nope, he didn't. He recollected his destination and the purpose of his mission. He observed Deidara's ongoing descent into madness that he had initiated. He had implanted a small portion of his chakra inside Deidara and then used it to infect his mind, much like he had parasites. After Neji revealed that Deidara had detonated his clay, Naruto was able to win the battle. He had placed the illusion that transformed Deidara's bird on top of another genjutsu to activate his previous chakra. It was like a bomb explosion, and as soon as Deidara channeled his chakra to make his clay explode, most of the chakra would be directed towards his feet, which meant that he had to watch his art go bad repeatedly. If he attempted to boost the clay's chakra, only enough energy would enter and keep him calm. Moreover, the genjutsu would only activate when Deidara contemplated his explosions. Despite being an insidious and dirty trick, it had already proven to be effective. Deidara inserted himself into his pouch. "Do you want to take my art from me?" he asked, waving a large piece of clay over his head and chewing it. His chakra began to ascend at an alarming rate, concentrating itself at one location on his body. "Rethink your decision." Naruto appeared in front of Deidara and slit his throat. Deidara's collapse was caused by the gurgling of blood from the wound, which also resulted in the loss of all his chakras. He wished to capture Deidara so that they could learn more about the Akatsuki, but he was too perilous to leave unattended. Therefore, a group of Akatsuki members died by his side and the others were obliged to take their place. Naruto accompanied his duplicate. His clone handed over Gaara's body without expression, and tears streamed down Naruto's eyes. He had sought retribution for Gaara's death, but it didn't have any significant impact. The other Jinchuriki was no more. He never saw his friend again. Even if he had to kill Deidara 1,000 times, there was no way for him to revive Gaara. Naruto had planned to go back to the cave where Sasori was being fought, but his team had already reached the clearing about an hour after defeating Deidara. Their presence had broken through the stupor he'd been in. Kakashi inquired if there was any information about Deidara. Once again, his Sharingan was concealed. "Dead," Samui declared. Naruto's actions resulted in his death. Neji stated that they had burned Deidara's body. What happened to him? With a nod to his surroundings, Kakashi appeared normal again. "Good job, you three. In the end, what became of Sasori?" Naruto inquired. "He's gone, too," Kakashi declared. "How did you feel about Sakura's body?" Guy asked, and like Kakashi, he was completely unharmed. According to him, he turned the third Kazekage into a puppet, but I was able to defeat it with Lee's help. The situation became somewhat tumultuous after he revealed his true form, but with the assistance of Lady Chiyo, we devised a plan that ultimately led to Sasori's victory. Tenten muttered. He was equipped with a multitude of weapons and had additional puppets. He was unable to return after we got rid of almost everything, which meant that he couldn't come back. Naruto gave a brief answer to the unresponsive ninja. While Sakura was breathing heavily, Lee suffered minor injuries, and Chiyo was irritated, but the rest of the group was in good health. What is the meaning of alive? Given that Sasori had been defeated without any significant injuries, that victory was a worthy recipient of his admiration, even if he had not managed to kill him. "Excellent work," Neji remarked. Tenten wiped her hands clean with a tired smile. "Stay patient, you missed me, Neji, until you saw what I got." With a giggle, Neji looked on. Chiyo approached the weapons collector and asked, "Are you among them?" Gaara was the sole focus of her sorrowful eyes. Naruto refused to acknowledge her. With his voice cracking, Naruto said, "We'll go back to the Sand Village. It's time to put Gaara to rest." Chiyo and others did not raise any objections. Sakura's frown indicated his concern for him, illuminating her green eyes, but he didn't need it. He was in a good state of health. Advancing through the water, fields, and forests, before reaching the hidden Sand Village. The fact that he was alive made it all possible. The only thing he could recall was the person who held him in his arms. Gaara had relieved him of his inner misery. He truly comprehended his past and exhibited to him that he could recover, improve, and develop. Gaara was the one who could genuinely trust Jiraiya and act on Temari's counsel. Having Gaara as one of his closest confidants was a heartbreaking experience, and losing her was deeply painful. The most unpleasant aspect of Gaara's passing was the ferocity of her spirit. The Akatsuki's death was solely caused by the tailed beast that resided inside him. Despite Gaara's instructions, it didn't change that she had become Kazekage. Gaara's struggles and suffering were unimportant, as they didn't care that he overcame his demons. Despite having family who loved him and protecting his village, they didn't care if they took Gaara's future for them and stripped their precious people of the time they could spend with him. None of that mattered to the Akatsuki. They would repeat the same action with him. Despite the harsh reality, he would carry his weight until the Akatsuki was battered and bruised at his feet. Despite the time that had passed, he didn't catch light until the forest came to an end and the desert started, with sand penetrating his sandals. "We're here," Chiyo declared, and Naruto observed the walls that guarded the hidden sands. Despite the lateness of the day, the sun was still shining because autumn is when its full season begins. "Let me see Naruto Uzumaki," Chiyo inquired. Naruto's expression was grimy, revealing bitter tears of anger and pain that could potentially be fatal. "You're not permitted to observe him. You are not permitted to touch him." Chiyo admitted to being responsible for Akatsuki's death, and Naruto was shocked by his stern statement. "I sealed Shikaku inside of him instead of his father, who instructed me to do it. The idea of enhancing the village was too overwhelming for me, as I couldn't envision Gaara's existence. I was uninterested in anything." The scowl in Naruto's mouth became more and more intense. "You didn't do it, at least not in the way you did. You never inquired about his well-being. The extent of the pain was unknown to you." Chiyo remarked that Gaara was not deserving of any of this. "Giving him another chance is the least I can do." The remorseful expression on her face cut through his anger. "What? Gaara and other children have suffered the consequences of their mistakes, which I know I shouldn't have done. There are countless foolish individuals in this world, but the sight of you and Gaara's presence gives me hope that things can be better in the future." As Chiyo walked by him, she stood in front of him and Gaara. "I will revive him without any further delaying. Let me rectify the mistake I have made." Naruto ingested a large meal and then crumpled to his knees, placing Gaara's body on the sand with ease. Chiyo and his companion went down to the desert floor. She placed her hands on Gaara's stomach, and a vibrant blue chakra burst forth above them. She was not just transferring chakra to Gaara, but also investing her entire being into his body. Despite this, her chakra was rapidly diminishing, and Naruto had to place his hands over hers. "Elevate my chakra, Lady Chiyo." Chiyo's expression was one that brought a smile to his face. "I am grateful for your help, which is why I say, thank you." She grasped his hands and the blue light above Gaara grew so intense that its intensity was as stark as nectar. The chakra ebbed and flowed, but it was directed to a favorable location. "I'm in need of a favor," Chiyo whispered to his companion. "If you could defend your life, it would be in Gaara's hands, and become Hokage like no other human has ever done. In my opinion, you have the potential to bring about positive change in this world." Naruto nodded as he spoke. "You've got it in your hands," she said. Slowly, the light dwindled away until it completely disappeared. Chiyo's face was still creased and deathly pale as she held on to his hands. Gaara's body vibrated and his eyes arose. Chakra was emerging from a deep spot within him. "What's your name?" Gaara inquired. Naruto's expression was one of pure happiness, a smile. "Good day, kinfolk." Chiyo's jutsu proved to be effective. Gaara had returned to the scene. Gaara was still breathing. One more thing remained to be done. A cloak with only one tail was formed by the nine-tailed fox, who had a chakra that bubbled around him. The chakra, which was poisoned by the Nine-Tails' unrelenting hatred, was more potent than anything he had ever encountered. The hands of Chiyo were released by Naruto, who then used the shortcut taught by Jiraiya to cleanse the chakra. Although not practical to use in combat, it would suffice for this purpose. When he finished, the only tail on the object was orange, flickering and flowing freely like a flame of life. He placed the chakra around Chiyo's waist, permitting it to enter her body, and when he stood up, she was with him. This tail would keep her alive, even though she was on the brink of death. Chiyo questioned, "What's up, kid?" Naruto's expression was one of pure happiness, as he smiled. "I suggest you visit your village again for a chance to see it from different perspectives." Chiyo's stance caused him to freeze and then he began to cry. Very well suited. She maintained a low-spirited demeanor. Gaara is the rightful leader of that location. Gaara's gaze flickered in a carefree manner, as she reached for his knee. "It would be a great privilege for me to have this opportunity." Sadly, he was unable to stand on his own, but Sakura came forward to help revive his bones and muscles that had been affected by rigor mortis, and Lee assisted Gaara in standing up. He placed Gaara's arm on his left shoulder, and Naruto's left bolstered Gear arm. Chiyo and the rest of the team that had saved him successfully made their way through the desert to the hidden sand village, with Gaara leading them. The hidden sand ninjas arrived on the journey, cheering them on as they emerged from the cave and shed tears of happiness upon learning that their Kazekage had not perished. Kankura and Temari were in the forefront, beaming with relief, happiness, and various other emotions as Naruto and Lee led them to his place. Naruto's expression of love for Gaara was accompanied by a smile. Gaara was truly loved and cared for by them. He had been a constant presence in my life. Finally, they arrived at the walls that welcomed all those who came to the village hidden in the sand, and Chiyo observed it with wide, uncorrupted eyes, soaking up everything around him. She maintained a smile and eye contact with Naruto, nodding once. The moment had arrived. Naruto released the elder who had taken Gaara's life for her to live, and Chiyo flopped over on the beach like a puppet with his strings tied in place. Gaara had her end, but it was a second chance for her. A new start. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more content. Support the original author by clicking their profile link in the pinned comment of the first video of this series. They deserve the love. Want early access and exclusive content? Join my Patreon community, link below. Your support fuels these videos. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay entertained, stay safe.